All right, we are here in our self-imposed exile. Obviously, we could do whatever we want. We are the Grog Emperors, but we've decided to follow the world so we can plot their overthrow. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, all those on the internet. Welcome to GROGTALK. I'm James.
I'm Dan.
And where are we from today, Dan?
We are from the second layer of the abyss. We're still in the abyss. Things have not, they're getting worse.
That's right.
We're going down. They say to go down in a dungeon, and so we've been heading down in the abyss. It seems they would apply here too. And so we are in the forest of temptation.
We are in the forest of temptation. Only 664 layers to go. So
well, we can survive this, can't we?
Yeah.
What are the odds we won't survive through all of that?
I'm sure we'll be fine. Just like on the Hex Crawl, which we're doing at 9 o'clock again. Our friend Carlos Lising is coming out, which is super cool. And then we are very fortunate and to have Jim Ward coming on at 10 o'clock. So I have to call him at 9:50 and then Skype him. So that there may be a little transition as we get all that going. So super excited today. Let's see. Let's talk about, hopefully GrogCon was going to happen October 9th through 11th. Again, this may work out perfectly. It will be the last con standing. Or it's going to be when this pandemic comes around again, and it'll be a fall surprise, which is just as exciting. So I'm sure there's a lot of good stuff one way or the other. Okay. Let's see. All right. So Grognard's Guild Online, a lot of people, I think some people saw, I put out a video about how to stream your game online. A lot of people have had interest in how to play online because obviously you can't get together with folks. So we have our Grognard's Guild Online. You can do that in Meetup. DM Brian and DM Josh now are running games. So looking for players. So if you're interested in that, go to the Meetup. Also, our dear friend who is online, the Chamberlain Brandywine, Rob is out there. He's starting his campaign on Zoom, so he may be taking some new folks as well. I'm not sure. But send him a note at Meetup, and I'll put that on the link. Patrons, again, thank you to all our patrons. We know times are tough for some of us, or a lot of us. So if you're still supporting us, thank you very much. We have a special heraldry section today, Dan. So I'm gonna show you that right now. So let me see if I can get that going.
Now, if I play that, are you going to hear it in the background? Because I was hearing us twice.
Oh, you were hearing us twice?
Well, so I don't want to have sound going over it.
Okay, well then.
You know what I mean? There's a delay.
Yeah, I got you. Well, yeah, I would probably mute it. I'll show it to you later.
Okay.
All right, let's see if this works.
Good evening, everyone. We're coming live to you from our lair in the North Woods, where the Scourge of the North, Victor Dorso, and myself, the Empress Strangler, Grand Druid of the North Woods, Jeannie, have taken it upon ourselves to roll up titles for Dan and James, the Grognards who bring you Grog Talk. So, these are the titles we came up with. James is the General, His Eminent Honor, Sir Terrible Sword of Longwood. And Dan is the Governor, His Brilliant Omnipotence King, Stupendous Slaughterer of Winter Park. So, you're going to have big puffy heads after hearing that. So have a great evening. We love you. Good night.
All right, so there we go. We've been given titles. What do you think about that? You there, Dan?
I am.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Right. So we have two titles. I'll have to put them up on on our heraldry page. So thanks to the Emperor Strangler and the Scourge of the North for giving us that. Is that the Slaughtered Winter Park? Yeah.
Slaughterer.
Slaughterer.
I'm the Brilliant Slaughterer.
That's right. That's right.
Just call me Mr. Brilliant.
Mr. Brilliant. Exactly. Exactly.
The dice don't lie. We've said it time and time again.
That's exactly. And because, yeah. So anyway, that's hopefully you guys enjoy that. We'll be posting that up on there. So again, thanks to the Strangler and Scourge for the Emperor Strangler and the Scourge of the North for that. Okay, so yes, and you know it's good. Well, you know, because I do live in Longwood, that you know, it sounds very appropriate for fantasy role playing. You know, so I do like my title as well. Excellent. Let's see. Let's go into random encounters because we still have this. Your favorite thing still, the Terrathran that we have to deal with. If you recall, we have a new. He survived. Remember, we had the Bat versus the Terrathran.
Yes, and remind me what a Oh yeah, they're little guys.
Yes, the little guys. They're from the ethereal plane, and we learned about how they're basically planar environmentalists. In that people cast magic, and that causes causes a disturbance in the force or whatever.
A ripple.
Yes, a ripple.
Right.
Causes,
and they come and that's right.
They
get unhappy if magic users. You know, I feel like Gary should have created this monster. He really missed out on that one, right? To keep on characters that get too powerful. He comes and sucks the magic, right? He does. He takes you.
Right. He takes you and tortures you.
Wow, awesome. Okay. Yeah, that's right.
They torture you. It doesn't tell you when they release you or they take your magic for the day. It's very odd. They're an odd little bugger. So
was this Fiend? Is it from the Fiend Folio or was it?
Yes.
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 Wait. So what you're saying is there was a strange monster coming out of the Fiend Folio?
Right. And I loved your emotion or reaction when you saw that it had like 12 paragraphs of text because
too long.
Hey, more people are coming online.
All right, I'm rolling for is it the Dorso roll?
Yeah, the Dorso rule is in effect, absolutely.
1, 2, or 3 is what I've only done this 20 times.
Yeah, this is why this is the second layer of the Abyss, because it's every time it's new. It's like
exactly.
Grandma,
Diabolic.
Go ahead.
I rolled a 5.
5, so that means
yes.
Monster Manual 2.
Okay, let's do it. All right, you want to roll it? Because I'm looking it up. So you're rolling a die 10.
Yes. No, we were not bashing. Carlos Lising, the emulator, said we weren't bashing the Fiend Folio. We were more depressed on the length of the Terrathran's description, because it had 12 paragraphs. That's why.
Hey, look, we won the last debate. Does he really want to go there?
Yes. Oh no! Now we won't have a hex crawl. He's just going to keep going.
He's mad.
He's going to just keep going if you do that.
No, yeah, he's gonna kill our character. That's right. It's really not smart to poke don't poke the DM.
That's
Isn't
right.
that an old saying?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, give me a D10.
9.
Oh. Okay. All right. So sorry. Aquatic.
Oh, this is going to be interesting.
Have we had an aquatic roll before?
I don't think so.
Okay, so I now need you to roll a die 6.
All right, I can do that. 1.
We are in cold, fresh water.
Nice.
I now need you to roll die 6 to see if we're on the surface or are we in the depths. So we're in the abyss, and we see a lake, basically,
That's right. Yes, a demonic lake.
I'm sorry. Yeah, it's fresh water. So yeah, you got a what? What'd you get?
I rolled a 6 now.
So the depths.
Ooh.
James, you know what we should do? We should go swimming. I see something. Is it the ring? I see something shiny down there. Let's go.
Let's go deep. Let's in the second layer. Well, we're in the what is it? The Forest of Temptation. You said this is just.
Oh, that's true. Wait, or is it us? No, it's that thing.
Yeah, the Terrathran.
So the Terrathran is hanging out in the abyss.
Right.
And he sees something shiny down in the water.
Apparently. Well, we're not sure yet, but it's something he's tempted with.
He dives in. All right, so now we need that old 2 to 20.
Okay.
Sure you remember how to do that.
Probably going to be a carp, and we're doing all this for a carp.
A small carp.
That's right.
I spell it for
13.
It is, we're going to have another roll. It is either a giant or a Nixie Gar. Have you ever heard of a Nixie Gar?
No, I've not heard of a Nixie Gar.
So you have to do a die 6 now.
Okay.
I really want you to get a 4, 5, or 6.
Okay, well, I got a 1.
Giant Gar.
Well, I've heard of a giant gar. Okay.
Okay. That's Monster Manual, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
Giant gar.
I hope it gets a good surprise. It really should. Just swallows, because I'm really mad. And I know Carlos Lising is too, about the fate of our ordinary bat, who was really just grabbed out of the air, if I recall, and squished.
Yes.
And so now it's going to be the revenge of the giant gar. Giant gar. Okay,
Page
so
42 on the Monster Manual.
And of course,
love
James,
the picture.
You got to show the picture.
Yes, love the picture. There it is.
That's great. That's great.
Everything you need to learn about being... Did we do a giant gar before, Brian thinks? I don't think we did a giant gar before.
I don't think so.
We're going to have to keep track of this.
Do you think that guy in the picture knows the gar is there?
It doesn't look that way.
He's just swimming.
He was one of the prisoners from the Nixies, which would make sense. You know how they keep people for a year? Is it the Nixies that keep people for a year?
Yes.
And then they release them?
Yes, he's just gotten out. Well, where's the Nixie gar? Did I miss what?
Yeah, I don't...
Oh, wait. Is it Nixie or giant gar? Am I just being ridiculous? Is there no such thing as a Nixie gar?
Yeah, I think you maybe have been confused.
I think I may be crazy, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so this is after the charm wears off. The Nixie says, okay, you're free, go back up to the surface, and this was what happens.
Exactly. Right. That adventure was being run by Vic Dorso.
That's right. You like finally, after a year of being captured, we get to head back home. That's awesome.
Oh yeah, I'm being stupid, which is surprising because I'm apparently brilliant. I think it's like Greenland. Everyone calls me brilliant because I know I'm not, and they're scared of me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a giant gar or a Nixie because it says gar, comma, giant or Nixie. I didn't realize that you could have 2 on one roll. So it's a Nixie.
That's right.
There's no such thing as a Nixie gar.
There's not a Nixie gar. That would be amazing though. Gar riding Nixies. That's what I would have.
Okay, so we've got a giant gar. Frequency is rare. 1 to 6 appear. That's pretty rough. Mm-hmm. AC 3. Movement of 30. Hit dice of 8.
Yeah.
5 to 20 damage. Unlike their smaller relatives, giant gar tend to be aggressive hunters. Of course. Why wouldn't they?
Right.
And is the next line, they love human flesh? That always seems to be the case. They inhabit only large, deep lakes and rivers. They are capable of swallowing prey whole. And any hit of 20 indicates they have done so.
Oh, I hope I get a 20.
Well, no. Oh, that's right. I'm not. You're the gar. Actually, you know what? I hope you get a 22. Note that a small giant gar can swallow an elf or dwarf whole. If a creature is swallowed whole, there's a 5% chance per melee round that it will die. A creature so swallowed must have a sharp-edged weapon in hand to have any chance of cutting its way out. That's kind of like the purple worm business, right?
Yep.
The swallowed creature must be able to inflict damage equal to 25% of the fish's total hit points to get free. Attacks which pierce the gar can hit the creature swallowed whole, and this will cause appropriate damage to both the gar and the creature swallowed.
Yes.
Okay, well, this sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, this is good. All right, so yes, we're in the Terrathrane. Why it's in the second layer of the abyss, we're not sure. But it came by this lake. It was down there looking for people to take away back to the ethereal plane. And a giant garce, we have to roll for surprise. And
we sure do.
And roll for distance. Hold on. So distance, they're 40 yards away. They're very close to each other.
Okay.
And let's roll for surprise.
I rolled a 5.
I rolled a 4.
Okay.
So none are surprised. So it's initiative.
Okay.
So
I rolled a 5.
What are you doing?
Oh, sorry. You declare.
What is this? You forgot how to play D&D?
Yes.
Okay, that's honest.
I gotta read this thing again.
That's right.
Hang on.
So we're gonna be on a short break as we read these 12 paragraphs.
Yeah. Give me 10 minutes.
Yeah. So most of it is, I'll just say, they talk about the chance for them coming to attack, which We don't have that because of magic. Their spells are Drain Power, which is against magic users. Stunning Blast. You'll probably want to do Stunning Blast.
That's what it's like I'm looking at a menu.
Right.
Yeah, would you recommend how is the Stunning Blast, do you think?
It's fresh. It's fresh. It's a fresh Stunning Blast.
It's got a bit of a kick?
Right, it does have a kick. Stunning Blast, yeah. The transportation, very bad. The oil's old and stale because no one's using it. I wouldn't do that.
Oh, but wait a second. The transportation, no, wait a second. This permits the Terrathran to transport itself and one other person. Oh, now it says parentheses, the offending spell user. Do you have to be an offending spell user?
Yeah.
Because I want to take you, I could take you back to the ethereal plane.
Right.
Oh, I'd have to grasp you.
Yeah, I don't think you're grasping a gar, which is 21 to 30 feet long, which I guess I should roll.
But wait a second. If you swallow me, I'm going to grasp you and transport the both of us back to the astral plane.
I like that. We'll see if that happens.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I'm going to do the stunning. I have chosen Stunning Blast.
Okay. So it's initiative, I guess. So.
Oh, should I re-roll?
No. 4 and a 5, right? Did we roll initiative? Yeah. Okay. So did you go first or I go first?
I go first. I got a 5.
All right. So you're going to do Stunning Blast. So I have to make a saving throw.
You get a saving? Yep.
It's equal to Power Word Stun. A saving throw against magic negates this effect. 15. I think I saved.
That's terrible.
I think I saved for that. So now he's going to attack you. The Gar is going to go for the swallow. By the way, I'm rolling a 20. I'm just letting you know. This is the beauty of the internet. Hey, I rolled a 20. Hey.
Yeah.
No.
That's what you do when you DM as well.
Oh, no, it's all rolled out. I rolled out front. I rolled a 7. What's your armor class?
AC is, it's a 3 and then, so I guess it's a 3. Wait, where am I? It's a parentheses 6. We're in the abyss.
Yes.
So my AC is 3. Oh, on the prime material plane, it's 3.
So you're not in the prime material plane, we've said.
When on the prime material, yep, gives a 3. So, actual AC is 6, so I guess it's got to be 6.
Yeah, this is a demonic Gar. This is a demonic Gar. So
has red eyes.
Yeah, he's got red eyes. He needed a 6, so he did hit, so that's good.
He's a Nixie Gar.
He's a Nixie Gar. Why he's here in the second layer of the abyss, we don't know. So
the Nixie Gars, that could be a band.
I
could see it as kind of like, very kind of, I don't know, new wave-ish?
It's not really ska, it's more new wave. Since you stole my dice, I'm still using the pink dice here. So if you ever want them back.
They suit you.
They do, I love them. 5 to 20, so that's 5d4. You might want to roll your hit points while this is happening.
Oh, you hit?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
I did 13 points.
Ouch.
On you.
Okay, hold on, I'm rolling. 4, 5, oh my God, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I have 12 hit points.
Yeah, you're dead. You did 13.
5 hit dice.
You're 5 plus 1. So how many hit points did you have? 12?
How much damage did you do?
13.
Oh yeah, no, I think even it was at max. Most was 13. I rolled like all 2s, and there was a 1 in there.
So he just came by and snapped your little head off.
You know what I call that?
What?
Karma.
It is karma.
The Terrathran was the bat.
That's
in
right.
This scenario.
What is that saying? Sometimes you're the bat, sometimes you're the windshield. So this time, or you're the bug, and sometimes you're the windshield.
Yeah.
So.
Sometimes you're the bat. Sometimes you're the Terrathran.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're the Gar.
That's right. So
our champ is a giant Gar.
It's a giant Gar. Absolutely. I'm not sure how that's going to work going forward, but
you know what his name is?
What?
Nixie Gar.
Nixie Gar? I'm not sure about that.
You're not feeling it?
No. I think it's got to be something better than that. So.
Wow. That was fast. Okay.
So yeah, that was perfect because we weren't a big fan of this creature. I think there must have been a special reason why someone put this in here, the Terrathran. I think you're right. It's to nerf magic users who are kind of being annoying, but still, it seems like a lot. Okay. I can live with that. I can live with those results.
I hadn't even digested the bat. He was still in my digestive system.
That's right. Let's see. Garth, I guess. Garth, Wayne and Garth. Yeah.
That's not bad. I like that, right?
He's in the. If he was in a brook, he'd be Garth Brook, but he's not in a brook. Yeah.
Oh, no. He's in a lake in the abyss.
That's right.
In the Forest of Temptation. See, he was the Forest of Temptation.
I know. Forest.
The Terrathrian was tempted to go swimming.
Yep. And the demonic Gar. How do I write this up?
All that's left are like, his clothes on the bank.
It's like in a bad Friday the 13th or something.
Yes.
Ooh.
There's just bubbles on the water.
I like what our friend Menyon Rootgar Howard. That could be good. I like that. We got some things for Twitter. All right. Excellent. Let's start with. I know a guy named Gar. Yeah. So everyone starts Googling Gar and appropriate names for him while we work on the spell selection.
All right. So shall I roll the percentile for the type of spell?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. 59.
59. That's a magic user. Now see if it's 0 through 9.
87.
Guess what? It's a magic user spell. And
fine.
A magic user is very happy because a Terrathrian was... Oh, wow, Minion is on fire. Che Guevara. It's, is that the Che Guevara from down south, the South American provocateur? That's the politically nice way of saying it. I'm sure others would not call him that. So there's this. This is what happens when you're in Japan, and I'm assuming based on previous conversations with Minion, he's enjoying himself in this because it's late evening for him. So he's not drinking coffee. He's drinking what we usually drink in the morning, Guinness, or something.
Do you think you can catch a giant gar if you were out deep sea fishing in D&D? Because our characters, right, in the Hex Crawl.
Whiskey he's drinking. Yeah.
Fisher people.
Right.
You think you could reel in a giant gar?
You're going to need a bigger boat. That's my understanding.
I walked into that one.
That's right. I would say so.
All right.
I would say either that. I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not much of a fisherman, but I know they catch sharks on, like in Jaws, they were catching with line. They weren't netting them. They just need I assume, on whales, they harpoon. So I'm sure you could do that. Absolutely.
It sounds like a fun game. Go
chasing Che Guevara.
There you go.
And you basically have to. This Gar is been attacking local boats, and they hire you to go out to do that.
It almost writes itself.
Except if it was a gnome ship, that would make it better.
No ship. All right. So we are rolling a die 10 for the level of magic user spell, correct?
Correct.
Would you like to roll that?
I'll roll that, sure. Okay. 9. There we go.
Whoa. And this is fitting. See, the dice don't lie. Because just like you said, the
Terrathran, yep,
is gone.
Right.
We get a magic user spell.
Yep.
And it's 9th level.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Do you know how many spells there are at 9th level?
No, I don't know that.
Well, it's not going to be crazy, right?
No, I agree with you. Hold on. It's a D12, I think.
It is a D12.
But I could be wrong.
Shall I go ahead and roll the D12 while you handle the technical issues?
No, I just wanted to make sure. I mean, usually the fans are pretty good at telling us if there's a problem, our dear friends, but I didn't see anything moving, but now I do. Okay, yes, D12. Make it happen.
Oh, this is awesome. I rolled a 5. I don't know anything about it, but it says Meteor Swarm.
Oh, Meteor Swarm. You don't know anything about Meteor Swarm? Today's spell is Meteor Swarm. It's awesome.
That's awesome.
So we are flipping, and we are flipping to Meteor Swarm, which is on the bottom of page 92.
That's not a terrible band name, but not the best.
That's right. And now, Meteor Swarm. Yeah.
Meh.
Exactly. Meh. All right. So, Meteor Swarm. First of all, it's 9th level. So it has a minimum range of 22 because you have to be 18th level to cast this. So
Right.
So 220 feet or yards, depending if you're inside out. Duration, instantaneous.
Wow. Right. So it's just right. But 9-segment casting time.
Yeah, this is going to take you got to wind up for this.
Okay.
And there's a saving throw for half, so what that typically means is you're probably going to save if you're fighting other 18th level people.
Oh, no. I'm using this on the little village.
Oh, okay, yes. Then
Right?
they would not save. They need about a 19 then. Then it's very likely they're not going to.
No, wouldn't you want to sort of just once you to play like an evil wizard, you just sort of walk around and you see the little village and you're like, meteor swarm.
Oh, hold on. We have to retcon. We have to go back. Roll percentages.
Really?
Divine intervention.
Oh my gosh. We are always forgetting that. You're right. Oh,
I'm not right. I'm just watching the chat. So.
Oh my gosh. And the Terror Thran is going to bring somebody nasty. I'm thinking.
Some ethereal god.
Nope, 63.
63. Okay. That's good. Well, at
Can
least
I roll again?
No, you can't roll again. Don't tempt the fates. I was about to sigh, and I'm glad we did what we were supposed to. So, the other thing that's interesting, there's no material component on this.
No, correct. So is this basically going to end up being like just a better fireball?
Of course.
I got to keep reading, but would be my guess.
Right. So it's very powerful and spectacular, similar to fireball in many aspects. When it's cast, you cast 4 spheres of 2 feet diameter or 8 spheres of 1 feet diameter. Spring from the outstretched hand of the magic user and streak in a straight line up to distance demanded by the spellcaster. Up to its maximum range, any creature in the straight line path of these missiles will receive the full effect of the missile or missiles without benefit of a saving throw. The meteor missiles leave a fiery trail of sparks, and each bursts as a fireball. The large spheres doing 10 to 40 damage, the 4 bursting a diamond or box pattern. Each has 33-inch or 30 feet diameter area effect, and the sphere will be 20 feet apart. So basically it's carpet bombing. You're basically...
Yeah.
Hey, David, good morning. That's right.
Yeah, these are missiles.
Right.
Like modern day missiles.
Right, exactly.
not like an arrow missile.
That's right. This is napalm. You're basically just bombing carpet bombing an area. And along with the sides of the pattern, so that the overlapping area. So you have overlapping. That's what makes it awesome. So depending on how you put it, you could potentially get hit 2 or 3 times. You're just
to make sure you're dead.
Right. Just.
So if you're like really evil, I mean, you're just like there's like a dog, and you're just like
right.
Meteor swarm. I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't pull out the fireball too, but
yes, nothing says spending. Well, how many hours does it take to memorize that? I don't know, 12 hours or something.
Well, once a day.
12. It takes 14 hours. What's memorize 9th level spell? It's some ridiculously long time to do that of rest, and was it 9th level? So 2 hours and 15 minutes of actual preparing. Your recovery of spells. You need 12 hours of rest, and then you need 2 hours and 15 minutes of 2 hours and 15 minutes of actual memorizing it, just so that you can kill a dog. That's a little disturbing. It's a little disturbing, Dan, to be perfectly.
It is, but I got to tell you, because usually I'm not a fan of these higher level stuff, but this one seems pretty awesome.
Yeah, it is up.
I like that.
Go ahead.
I like the delayed blast fireball too. It's really good.
Yeah, these. What's good about them is they're very straightforward. They do one thing. They do and some suggestions on the gnome village. Perhaps what happens is that creature that you were talking about, the ogre deity that goes and just eats people. What was the one you were talking about?
I think Valprak.
Valprak, right. So Valprak is coming, and the wizard's there to help, and he drops that on the village to try to defeat Valprak, and actually just slaughters all the gnomes in a horrible way.
Right.
I was just trying to help. That would be what an 18th level wizard would do.
Oops. I did it again.
Exactly. So yeah.
That's awesome. That's a great spell. I like that spell. It makes me want to be a high-level magic user, which is unlike me.
So, and you have to make saving throw for each area of effect. So it's not a one or done. You basically, so if you get rocked twice, And for those, I'm sure a lot of people play it. If you fail your saving throw, then you have to start rolling for your magic items, like we talked about. Because
Yes.
So imagine the poor 15th level fighter who, even if he fails one save, which again it's possible, even at 15th level, your saving throw against spells, assuming you don't have any magical items, is a 7. 17th level is 6. So you still have a 30% chance of failing, and then all your magic items potentially could be destroyed. You're very sad at that point.
Or, no. You're not sad. The other players are, because they want to loot your body.
Well, that's true. Yeah, if you fail your save a number of times, you're pretty bumming. You're going to be, but a high level a high level fighter is probably going to have 90, 100 hit points. So assuming he hasn't been damaged, depending on where you put it, you definitely could survive that as a fighter. A magic user, you're not going to survive that.
Right.
But a fighter, if he's high level and he hasn't been damaged, he could survive a meteor swarm. But he's not going to be happy. It's not there may be a negative charisma after that if you fail.
Right. Just a flesh wound.
That's right. Exactly. So that's straightforward, simple, easy, does what it's supposed to do. That's what I like about it.
It's not fussy.
Right.
So and you know what? And this is what I like about it. So in the DMG, no discussion of it. You know why there's no discussion of it? Two reasons. There's nothing confusing about it.
Yep.
It's not, because like I said, it's not fussy. And secondly, a lot of these discussions were when people were probably abusing we need to ask Jim about that. Remind me, right, to ask Jim if Gary did these things because people were abusing their spells, right? Because we've often wondered about that.
Yeah.
But are people abusing Meteor Swarm?
I don't think so.
It's built to be abused, basically, right? How can you abuse Meteor Storm? Like, hey, you're using Meteor Storm, in a way. We need to nerf it. Are you kidding me? That's what that's what it was built for. So, all right, that's an awesome spell. I love it.
Well, and the only downside is the casting time. And there's a discussion in the chat about this would be one I would like to put on a scroll, only because a smart enemy, or in this case, let's say you're fighting the evil wizard, he starts a 9-segment spell. I mean, if you're going after the Archmage stronghold, he starts trying to cast, all your focus is on that guy. And all it takes is, again, assuming he doesn't have globe invulnerability on or some other type of thing, all it takes is a quick spell or arrow or something to disrupt that spell, because he's basically casting that the whole time.
Absolutely. It's like the scene in Lord of the Rings in the movie, right, where Helm's Deep, or shoot the guy who's going to explode.
Right, the kamikaze guy.
Right. All right, well, what do you think? Do we have time? So I know we've got to about, 20 minutes for our hex crawl?
Yep.
Do we have time for, I know we talked about doing, you talked about talking about disease in D&D. We also have the gnome.
That's right, we have the gnome thing. Let's do I think people like the gnome thing, so let's do the gnome thing.
Okay.
Because the only reason I brought up the disease one is not to try to be funny, which is partly, but we did touch on it last time for our St. Patrick's Day special. We did intoxication. We kind of touched on disease, but let's do this one. So we're going to do our gnome illusionist.
All right. So from Kelly Villamir's excellent First Encounter magazine, and let me see where we are up to. I need to remember the letters. No, I don't remember that creature. Okay. Oh yeah. So we finished up with the badge. I remember this. It was the bugbears.
Yes.
Remember?
We did the bugbears.
We did the bugbear. So here we are. Ready? Here we go. So, and just for those people who haven't listened to the show before, this is from First Encounter magazine. It is, so have you ever played a gnome fighter illusionist trying to save your village? It is testing your skill of playing a gnome fighter illusionist. And Cameron Munn as well helped write this. Okay. So you get the door open and proceed down the corridor. Again, you notice the many entranceways and side passages along the route. Here and there, the odd door is thrown in your path or alongside the corridor. You travel along with no problems until up ahead you see what seems to be a puddle seeping from under a door on the side of the corridor. That seems odd since this lair has at least seemed fairly dry. You then realize that it is gray ooze, which is slowly covering your path and route of escape. You decide to, and there's going to be 7 choices.
All right.
1, attack immediately with a sword. 2, use Ring of Lightning on it with dagger ready in case it fails. 3, cast invisibility, then attack it with a mace. 4, use Blur Spell on self, then attack with mace. 5, cast Dispel Illusion on this obvious illusion, then walk past with dagger in hand. 6, cast Color Spray on it, then kill it with a sword. 7, use Ring of Lightning on it, then attack with a mace. So there are 7 choices. So attack immediately with sword. 2, use Ring of Lightning with dagger ready in case it fails. 3, cast invisibility and attack with mace. 4, blur spell and then attack with mace. 5, dispel illusion and then walk past it. 6, color spray, then kill it with sword. 7, Ring of Lightning on it, then attack with mace.
So 2 and 7 are basically the same, except one's a dagger and one's a mace.
Exactly. I'm feeling, did we I should know this as, of course, since my patron deity / demon is Jublex.
Jublex, that's right.
So I should know this, right? I'm going to go with 7. Either that's a terrible idea or a great idea. I remember something about electricity,
right,
and gray ooze. I can't remember if it's a no-no or a yes.
Yeah. So because you said 7, now I'm choosing 5 because I thought 7 was the right answer too. But my Dan rule kicks in, which is if this is something you're going to do, I'm not going to do that. So I agreed with you. I thought 7 was the best. So we've got.
You don't want 2? Oh, but you already know because you think right. So it's the opposite rule.
The lightning is the main part of that, and you think that's a good idea.
Right.
So,
I
thought it was 2. So, so I'm going with 5.
All right, dispel illusion, and then walk past it.
Okay, so we've got Bucky's going with 7. Brian's going with 5, like me. Shannon's going with 5. Rob Ritchie's 3. I haven't seen. Make your choices. He's not sure. That's how D&D works, Menion. You got to pick. You don't get to.
Oh no,
he passes.
Yes, Gary has told us this.
That's right.
He has hesitated.
He's
attacked by.
He's delayed action. That's basically. He's stabbing with his dagger.
The ooze is. We're going to have to do an ooze attack on him. Actually, we have to do a special result.
Yeah, I think he has psionics too in ooze. So that.
Now psionics. Oh, that means they can use a psionic blast on us if I don't have psionics, right?
If they have psionic blast, I think they have something. I think they use it to determine who's there. But okay,
can I parlay?
You can always parlay. That's
not a choice. Okay, we're ready to go.
Yes, we're ready to go. Yep, all answers are in.
F1. So hang on, I got to go back to see what these were because I'm curious. So that was the attack immediately with the sword. You kill it, but you take 6 hit points of damage, plus your sword is now useless.
Yes. So
Did we have a number 1?
No number 1s.
Okay. Number 2, this is the Ring of Lightning with dagger in hand. So this is going to give me a clue.
Right.
How it goes for me. Kills it, take no damage.
Darn it.
Feeling good.
This is terrible.
Feeling good. F3, that was cast invisibility. After initially hitting it with a mace, you become visible. Oh, that's right. Cast invisibility attack with a mace. I always forget about that. Take 2 unlucky points of damage and mace crumbles. So that wasn't terrible. It's 2 points of damage. F4, the blur spell. Spell's no good for defense against this creature. Take 10 hit points of damage. Mace crumbles. F5, this is Dispel Illusion. This real creature attacks, takes 17 hit points of damage.
God.
Dagger, no good. Oh my gosh. Okay, well that's how many? Let's see how many you started with. That's your first damage, I believe, isn't it?
I think I took 2 last time.
Oh, did you? My. That's I'm turning. I'm flipping. You started. Yes, James. You started with. Where are you? 50. 50.
Yeah, all that great play lost because you and I agreed on something.
Well, listen, I can't blame you for your instinct. It seemed right to me. That's the problem. I believe your instinct was right. Therefore, it must have been wrong.
Yes.
Got it?
I think so.
Too soon?
It's very frustrating because...
Too soon. We're just moving on. F6. This was, what was F6?
I don't remember. It doesn't matter.
It does matter to me. I'm trying to learn. Color spray, got it.
I knew that
How else am I going to learn? You're just, stop pouting. And a spell doesn't work on it. Yeah, because I think color spray is probably just what, like, I don't know.
It depends what hit dice. Yeah,
you're probably right.
And there's some intelligence too. Go ahead.
Spell doesn't work on it. Take 8 hit points of damage before killing it, plus sword corrodes, and is no longer usable. F7. Did anyone pick F7 out there? Anyone?
Yes.
Anyone? Who? Really? What, me?
Yes, F7, yes.
That was me. Oh, interesting. I'd forgotten I picked this one. Lightning kills it. Take no damage.
It's so ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Thank you, Kelly. All right.
When did you decide to know how to play?
You know what? This show, I'm learning. We did Grey Ooze. I think we've done Grey Ooze, haven't we?
Yes.
I think we did Grey Ooze as a monster, and I learned about lightning. See, this show, I'm learning. I'm like a sponge.
No, you forget every session. Every week you don't remember what's happening. So I was banking on that.
I wasn't sure. I just knew lightning, electricity, Grey Ooze, something.
So your metagaming was worked out for you because my rule was very simple. Whatever you picked was, I'm not picking that. And as soon as you said 7, I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, so you shouldn't have metagamed. You metagamed.
It's on top of your metagaming.
Right.
I went with the ultimate metagame. Dan is wrong. Dan has no idea.
Yep, 2 layers of metagaming. They cancel each other out.
Yeah, Dan has no idea what he doesn't know these creatures. Everything's fresh and evergreen to him. I'm like 1 in 7 chance of him actually picking the right one, and then he picks the one I wanted. And I said, well, I can't go with that. I can't. I know it's a mistake, and that'll teach me. Now I just need to pick. I need to pick the one that's right. No, I'm not following you.
That's the rule. Follow me.
No.
Because you know what? I'm Mr. Brilliant.
This is game theory. Game theory is I should have went first, said it quickly, so that you would be not wanting to follow my footsteps and pick typically incorrectly. But, I think we're about even now, because you've been nickeled and dimed over this time.
Oh, please. No, you're way worse off than I am.
Do you want me to go through all the video? You're going to make...
Yes. I want you to tally them up. I wouldn't subject you to that. I would subject no one to that. Well, shall we ease into the... we're close to Hex Crawl time,
yes,
right?
we are. We are ready for the Hex Crawl. Let me give... give that. So there's how bad is the delay out there? Is it delay as far as the time we talk and you see things? Is that the issue? Or is the sound delayed? Because if it is, just let me know. I'll see if I can fix that. All right, Carlos, you all ready for us? Let's see. Let me go find it.
So for those of you who haven't seen the show before, this is a session where we're doing a Hex Crawl through Grewhawk in celebration of the 40th anniversary of the publication of the Folio edition.
Okay. Carlos, how are you? Good?
I'm doing all right, man. Yeah, I'm feeling good.
Amanda and you?
This weekend I've got like 5 Twitch or stream things going on, so I've got a very busy weekend. Well, I just got done writing a bunch of Patreon stuff and mapping, and so it's going to be a D&D heavy weekend for me. Good.
Now, are you still having us on? And do you want to talk about that for the April charity event? Or is that happening or not?
Actually, this is a good time to talk about the charity event. The charity event we're going to push back.
Okay.
I've been in conversation with CCF about it. We were ready to go. I had all kinds of good stuff planned for it. However, it's my feeling right now that being at a time when money is tight, I don't want to go through a charity event that is not as effective as it could be. I think I'd rather wait until the autumn or maybe even next year until everything settles down a bit before I want to try and ask people for money. I would feel a little bit self-conscious about doing that.
Well, and makes total sense. And if the fall, again, no one knows what's going to happen. It's all super crazy at this point, but potentially, I don't know if, and again, we're spitballing here, you could do a live charity event at GrogCon if you're here.
Oh, that would be awesome, man. That's something I would definitely visit with you guys if you're interested in doing so.
We would love to do
There
that.
is one thing that I am doing right now that I think would be kind of cool to tell you guys about if you're interested. Dan, I know that you've been, and I thank you so much for this. It's very kind of you to be a supporter of my Patreon for as long as you have. Given what's going on right now in America and around the world, I felt really, I felt like we have a very tight-knit community in the game, especially all of us that are first edition players. Want to do something for people that are in the middle of being, tied up with being in your quarantine or whatever. My Patreon is free right now. I took the price down to $0 right now. So if you guys ever want to check out what I do, or if you wanted some rewards on the cheap, well, you can't get much cheaper than free. Just come visit us at www.patreon.com/Castle Entertainment and check out what we're about. It's free. You can get the Monster of the Month, the Magic Item of the Month, the Spell of the Month, our mini module, which I believe is scheduled to be about 14 pages this time. So
the mini module.
Yeah, I do. My mini modules are generally anywhere between about 10 to 20 pages. So
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Very generous of you, Carlos. So thank you. So
Oh, no problem, man. Like I said, I want the community to be able to enjoy some stuff, and like I feel a little bit disingenuous and a little bit self-conscious about asking people at a time when money is so, charity begins at home.
Right.
And I want everybody to be able to look after themselves without having to worry about making decisions about their entertainment dollars. Enjoy my stuff for free right now, or don't enjoy it. Tell me it sucks. If you don't like it, that's fine too. But at least you guys have a chance to look at it and judge for yourselves and enjoy just having something to look at.
Yeah, no, and they're great products. So
Hey,
Craig, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate that. That's really kind of you to say, man.
Craig is on. Hey, Craig, how are you? And he just put.
Thanks, Manion. I appreciate it, man.
Just said, hey, if we want to put a charity event together at Crucible, he'll put us in the boardroom. So that's awesome.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I couldn't thank you guys enough for that. As I mentioned before, everything was ready to go. I've got the covers and everything. The back cover, they're absolutely gorgeous from my my number one artist, Dane Govar. I had some rewards for the most outstanding players all set up and everything, but again, it's just not the right time.
Yeah, makes sense.
We'll push it back a little bit, and we'll have an opportunity to have we'll rock it out here in a couple months, and it gives me a chance to set up some VIP players that I wanted to. There were some VIP players that were a little reticent to go this quickly after GaryCon. Hopefully, I'll be able to snare them a little bit later in the year.
Okay, excellent. Well, we're always big fans of helping out. We just did a video on how to stream. It just in this times like this, people need. There's nothing wrong with healthy distractions and coming together as a community. So,
I just want to make sure that everybody's healthy distraction is cost effective for them and their families as possible. For me, anyway.
James, did you notice that your video and James did the video? And I wasn't involved in it, about how to stream games. It got more likes than our last episode. So people watched our last episode. They're like, it's okay.
Yeah, that's right.
And they watched your how to stream. They're like, oh, that's good.
Yeah, we can.
James, your approach to streaming games, I really enjoyed it. There's a lot of different technologies that you can use out there, and there's a lot of different methodologies that you can use. For example, your methodology for it is nowhere close to what I do, but yet it's just as valid. I think it's really cool to watch to see what your approach was.
Yeah, and I know that you use other things, and I've watched your Twitch. So again, there's many ways to do it. It really is how we do things here, based on what we've kind of learned as we go with the technology. And I think, we also don't stream as many events as you do. So I think, and part of it was what people were willing to do. Zoom, when we started this, Zoom was not as big a platform. So, there's a lot of pros and cons. There's many paths to it. This is how it works.
Sure.
And,
sure.
I think the problem is just getting started. The goal that I had was, okay, nothing about it. You want to do something similar to what other people are doing. Here's the basics to do that. Then you can replace, if you don't want to use OBS, you want to use Streamlabs, you want to use something else, you can go back and do something else with that. So,
yeah, in particular, my technology, just for anybody out there who is watching this and is interested, whereas James mentioned OBS and Streamlabs and everything, I actually use Zoom to get everybody together. I broadcast using XSplit, which is a program similar to OBS that I like a little bit better. And then I do Streamlabs on top of that to get some of the apps on that, and everything else that you'll see over there graphic-wise is like layer masks that I'm making using Photoshop or GIMP or whatever.
Yeah, but the concepts are, you need a way to talk and video. You need a way then to aggregate your local stuff with that and push it forward. Okay, well, if they want, they can look at that video. And of course, Carlos is on Twitch. You can do that. And we still need to do a giveaway. I know I went to your site, and you're not shipping right now, but you are doing $4 off your PDFs?
I am doing $4 off of everything, right? Yeah, absolutely. Anybody who wants any modules, any Castle Entertainment stuff, please feel free to reach out to us if it's something you're interested in. There's one other cool way right now that you'll be able to get Castle Entertainment stuff soon. It's a kind of a good time to announce it. Thanks, James. Some of you guys out there might know that Tabletop Events is struggling right now.
Yeah,
they're an organization that helps do convention management for a lot of conventions around America. Well, with everything being canceled, they're having trouble keeping the lights on right now. Well, Castle Entertainment donated quite a bit of game materials, both digital and physical rewards, to them, and they'll be doing a giveaway, or excuse me, an auction soon. So if you guys want to get some cool Castle Entertainment swag or adventure modules there, it's a good time, a good way to do it, and also give to a good to donate to a real good cause.
Okay, yeah. Send us if you send us the link, we'll put that on the show notes too. Well,
yeah, absolutely.
Well, let's get this started. We've got it's 9:06. We've got about 45 minutes or so, plus or minus. I'll
get you out of here quicker than that, I think.
Oh, great, thanks. Is that?
So anyway, Dan, roll your saving throw against me. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, got it. Okay, yeah. Let me see. He's just better at
Intrepid Heroes. As you guys remember, you were still in the hold of Stonefist. You had talked to Sabrala Starbreaker from the Ice Barbarians. She's a very noted bard that's there, and she had mentioned to your group that she was performing reconnaissance on behalf of the Kruski against Stonehold, because Stonehold had left to go to war against the forces of the forces of the Theocracy of the Pale, just to the east, or to the west, I should say, of them. I'm going to pick you guys up. Your whole group is, after your conversation with her, your whole group you've been awake for quite some time. All of you were pretty hungry. You just adventured down in that tomb, as you know. It would be a good time for you to go to sleep and get something to eat. At this point in time, I'd like to know what you guys are going to memorize when you for the day, please, for your spells.
Well, I'm going to look at my vast assortment of spells as a first-level magic user, perusing them carefully, and I'm going to choose my namesake, Sleep.
Perfect. And you?
And in honor of Jim Ward, our guest who's coming on, I'm going to pick the spell he picked the first time he ever played. I'm picking Light.
That's an excellent choice.
Thank you.
When you wake up, you are most of the time when you guys were growing up in the Wild Coast, nice quiet town of Safeton, your mornings were brought to you in a kind of a gentle way. War hadn't come to Safeton in a long time. You know, you're used to the light filtering in through your windows and nice breeze coming in off the coast, the smell of salt in the air, fish, maybe the sound of the fishing boats coming in back into port. Instead, today, when you're woken up to an absolutely bitter cold. The first thing that you see is this leaden belly of clouds above you. The snow is blowing horizontal across you. You'd gone to sleep in a tent, but you're no longer in a tent. There's a face hanging over you, about 6 inches over your face. It's got a big, thick, red beard full of snow, and he looks at your face and says, "You need to get up now."
We get up?
Get up.
He puts his hand down on your chest. He puts his hand right over to prevent you from getting up. He says, "No, do not stand. Listen very close to me." He says, he looks at you both. He looks extremely serious, and there's fear in his eyes a bit. He looks at you both. He says, "Do you trust the Starbreaker, yes or no?"
Yes. Oh, yes.
Put this on. He hands you both these furs.
Okay, don them on. Is the rest of the group with us? Is Autumn?
No, Autumn is not there, and you look around, Marissa's not there. You don't know where either of them are.
Okay.
He looks over at you. He says, he hands you, James, a ring, and he hands you, Dan, an amulet. Okay. He says, "Put these on now."
I put it on.
I put the ring on.
He looks over to his left or right. As sight is beginning to come back to you, you're seeing shadows kind of all around you. There are these men, and they're all the men of the Krusky, and they're all there with shovels and things. They've dug next to you what looks like shallow pits in the snow and the ice, about maybe 5 feet deep. He looks at both of you. He says, "Get in now. Now, get in."
I roll into the pit with her.
They start covering you with snow.
Okay.
As they're covering you with snow, right away you notice something. These furs, they're not normal. You're not feeling the cold so much at all on you. At all. And something else interesting is happening. As they're burying you, they're covering your face with this. You can see right through the snow upwards. As sight is coming up to you, realize now that you've been drug out of the tents that you had slept in. You're pretty close to the center of camp where they were digging holes to bury you in, and probably about maybe 30, I shouldn't say that, maybe probably about 300 yards away, shadows are coming towards you through the gloom. It looks like almost an army of people, about 50 people.
Okay.
Dan and James, what will you do at this point in time?
Well, and the other men are burying themselves as well, or is it just...
No, they're burying you, and they're standing around afterwards.
Okay, so I think they're trying to... I tell Mindy that it looks like they're trying to hide us, so we stay motionless. Though as I'm being buried, I try to get my rose petals or my sand in preparation for sleep.
Okay. Mindy, do you have any plans?
I'm going to do the same. I don't know what my spell components are for light, but I'm going to look them up. But yes, I will do the same. I'll get my spell components ready.
Okay. Some time passes, the snow, and it continues to fall. You notice that you're not really all that cold, fortunately. You're able to see these shadows are walking towards you. And as they're walking towards you, the first shadow in the lead is Sabrala, Starbreaker. She's not wearing her fur. She looks slightly cold. You're now aware vaguely that it's Mindy that's wearing the one that she was wearing before. Next to her is Marissa, is walking with her. Marissa has a black eye. She's got a puffy lip. She looks like she's had the hell beat out of her. The guys that are behind her, they're all there. You realize that the ladies are at spear point. And Sabrala kind of groans. She says, I told you they're nowhere to be found. Look around you. You can look anywhere you want, any tent you want. Sabrala walks over and she's actually standing on top of like where, just behind where Mindy's head would be. Marissa kind of is walking through the snow. You see her kind of looking at the ground, almost like trying to figure out where you are. And she kind of stops James about maybe a foot or so left of where you are. She's just kind of standing over you.
Okay.
She looks, and you realize who she's talking to as they turn around and look back. The figure that is with them is probably about a 6 foot tall figure wearing kind of a weird looking tattered black cloak. The black cloak is covered in eyeballs. All of them are different colors and they look around everywhere, all around, with this creepy kind of a bloodshot look. This figure has a crown on its head. All of the crown are fingers. It looks like halfling fingers, human fingers. Some are skeleton, some are rotting.
Gnome fingers?
Male, female, what's that? Gnome fingers.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Okay.
Just a single middle gnome finger.
That's wearing it is a woman whose skin is grayed with age and rot. You can see through parts of her cheek. Her eyes are hollow black, these little hateful points of light in the middle. She looks around and she just kind of hisses in this quiet voice that just barely hangs over the snow. She says to her men, look in every tent, and for every tent in which you do not find one of them, one of these men dies. And she looks over at Sabrala and just kind of smiles and says, would you like to tell me now where your friends are? And when she just kind of grins, you can see the desiccated lips pulled tight to the body, to the face. Sabrala says, I told you I have no idea who you're talking about. I said, we're here, we're spies. You can do whatever you want to us. You can do whatever you want to my men. She goes, we know nothing of these people. Sorry to hear that. Kind of looks around. You see her pull out of her pocket this weird kind of this iron circle. I need you both to roll me a 20-sider, please.
All right.
She's kind of looking at it in her hand.
4.
I rolled a 4.
Okay, both of you are familiar enough with technology that this is a timepiece. And she looks at it's a gnomish make timepiece.
Of course.
Usually it's only the gnomes that have them. So she's obviously got it from a dead gnome, probably. She's slain to do it.
The finger that's there.
Yep, right there. Looks at it.
Other direction.
Kind of looking down on the ground. Looks back up at Marissa. Marissa spits on the ground. You hear a man scream in the distance. Sabrala just does not look at all moved by it. Time goes on in this manner. You hear the men of the Kruski, at least 7 of them are slain. but by some means that you can't see around the campsite. Woman looks at Sabrala and says, "They may not have been here yet." Sabrala kind of slits her eyes a bit. "Our friends, they don't walk across the land. They walk between seconds, you see." "No, I don't see." Kind of chuckles to herself. "Well, if you see our friends, it'll be quite worthwhile to you. To tell me so. I'll be back. And so will your friends." She turns around, and when she does, you see the men of the Kruski that are being killed shambling towards her. She just kind of smirks. "Very well, then. We'll meet again, Sabrala Starbreaker." Turns around, she starts walking away. Sabrala kind of looks down at the ground a bit, shakes her head twice and walks away from you. About maybe 15, 20 minutes later, you can hear the shovels next to you starting to dig you out. Marissa is one of them. One of the people that's digging. The guy that told you to hide is no longer with the group. There's probably, as I said before, when you first met these people, there were anywhere between 20 and 30 of them. Now there's probably anywhere between 15 and 20 of them. They look horrified, all of them, like they've seen something that they shouldn't see. These are hard men of the Kruski, very tough, very strong men, warriors born, and they look absolutely horrified. As you are dug out, Marissa reaches out to help you out, and Sabrala does the same. She looks at the both of you and she says, "Come to my tent."
Okay. That's right. He couldn't take it anymore. He told.
You were so scared by the events of this game that you ducked out. I told James.
I couldn't take it anymore.
You're not. I'm not Vic Dorso. Okay, you guys don't have to worry about it.
All right. I'm back.
Okay, well, it's good to see you back, man. So anyway, like I said, the last where I left my intrepid heroes here, you had been dug out of the snow, and Sabrala had invited you back to the tent and said that we had a lot to discuss. When she gets you back to the tent, she looks at you, very quiet for a moment, and says, 11 of my men died today to protect you. Tell me that it was not for nothing. Who are you? Why are you here?
Why would I have? Can I answer that with a question? Why would you protect us? We are indebted to you, and we will make it worth your while. We owe you our lives.
Don't speak more than we can answer for, Mendy.
She looks at the two of you and she says, "You owe us. This is not how the Kruski are. This is not my way." She says, "Look at you. You're dressed as foreigners. You speak our language. You speak the cold tongue fluently. Do you not find that odd? You speak it like a native."
Yes, that is.
"Did you speak it before you came to us?"
No, and obviously I was just figured this out. I'm like, how did that ever happen? I look perplexed at Mendy.
Yeah, she looks at you. She says, "You've told me that you came in a boat. While you were asleep, my men looked on the coast. There's no wreckage to be found. You said you come from the south. There are no footprints to be found. You just seem to come from nowhere. And now there's this The restless dead follow your trail, and they ask me questions. They tell me about people who walk between seconds, not across the land.
You are, and she's the half-elf, correct?
Yeah.
Your kind on the elven side, who live between ages, who've lived through ages. What is the common year, if you know it?
She looks at you. She says, the common year, by the reckoning of the Sul calendar, it is 4871, but by the common year, seems to count for a moment, 592.
So it's 8 years before our time. So
right.
So I let her know, I do not know what is going on and what our purpose is, and I really don't care. What I can tell you is this is 8 years from when our age, we should be 8 years younger based on what you just told us. So why that is happening, we don't know.
Takes a half step forward, and she looks at your cloak, at the edge of that star cloak of yours. Kind of picks up and looks at it for a moment. She looks over at Mendy. She goes, does your brother speak the truth?
He does.
It is obvious. He lets go of the cloak. She says, that cloak that you wear. She smiles. She goes, it is elven. You know that?
We guessed, but we did not know. We were given without any instructions.
Look at the star patterns. The stars do not make that pattern. They won't make that pattern for many, many years.
Oh, okay. Now we're looking at it, does it look like it's the constellations in this hemisphere?
It's hard to tell because of the snowfall and the weather out there.
Okay.
It's really hard to tell. So Brala looks at you and says, I protected you because it was clear to me that you're not evil people, but you have a greater purpose for being here. I could not let the likes of her get their hands on you.
Who is she? Obviously a necromancer or something evil.
She claims she's the restless dead. She says that she is Lachrain something. She just spat it like it was a curse.
Is there somebody who you think might be able to solve this puzzle for us? Perhaps a great sage?
She looks at you and smiles, and she says, when I introduced myself to you, I told you I was the most talented bard of my people. If you'll give me a moment, perhaps I can unravel this myself. But I wanted to hear the words from your own lips. The truth sometimes is not necessarily found in books or in spells or even in stars. She points at your cloak. Sometimes the truth can only be found here and here.
Any insight you would be able to give us would be greatly appreciated.
Marissa puts her helmet down. She sits on the top of it. She looks over at you guys and she says, whoever this person is, her men are strong. And I need a break for a bit. She says, looking at the two of you, I took a pretty good beating. Sabrala nods. She says, you sit here and I'll get you something to eat, something to drink. We'll talk more. And I'm going to speak to the spirits about you.
Thank you. And I say to, I just lost, do you guys see James? I just lost James.
No, I see James.
Oh, okay.
I just wasn't moving.
I see yeah, all right, well, that's my computer. You're pixelated. Oh, there you are. Wait. Oh, you just weren't moving.
That's right. There you go.
No, it's pixelated.
Hey, Dan, do me a favor. Turn off your YouTube if you still have it on.
Oh, let me see. I do not have it on.
Okay, that's fine. Just from a bandwidth perspective.
Yeah, I was going to eat bandwidth, exactly. Okay, so she goes ahead and she starts pouring you some of that strong brandy that she gave you guys when you first met. You end up eating a little bit of roast. Tastes like an elk more than anything. Doesn't really say anything much, but she sits around the fire and she's starting to put together all these unguents and all these bits of like powder. It seems like from all these different small containers that she has over at her pack. She looks over at you, the two of you, and she says, I would like something from both of you, something personal item that you can feel free that does not matter if it's destroyed.
Okay.
Something that you have possessed for some time. Does not matter how long.
Okay. I have a candle.
Perfect.
Yes.
She takes a candle. And you?
Well, I'm trying to scroll up here to my stuff. And I have...
While you're deciding, she's taking the candle and she's lighting the candle. She's kind of murmuring to herself and tossing into the fire these powders. And the powders are making these swirling colors that are making these weird kind of quasi shapes out of the fire. Go ahead, Dan, or James, what are you going to give her?
I have a writing quill, and so I will give her that.
Perfect. She takes a quill. And she puts it over the fire, and it lights the end of it, and the whole, as the quill starts to burn, it doesn't get consumed. Instead, it's this quill of fire that hangs in midair. And she looks at the fire, and she says, I can ask 7 things of the flames. And she looks at it. She says, why are these 2 men here? Or excuse me, she says, why are this brother and this sister here? The flame in midair writes, all of a sudden begins to write, a trailing fire behind it. And it says, quite simply, it says, a father always protects his children. She nods.
Is it in common? Do we know what this says? What it wrote?
No, it's not only. Go ahead and make me a 20-sider, James.
7.
Not only is it in common, it is in a. It seems to you to be in a dialect spoken regionally in Hardby, strictly, but very old Hardby.
Okay.
She looks at it and says, looks over at you, looks at the quill. Do you understand what it means?
We never knew our father.
She nods. Who was that woman? The dead one. The quill in the air writes, it says, an old enemy of mine, an old enemy, and it says, and an enemy of mine that is yet to come. Nods. Why here? Their presence here was not my doing. It was their guardians. Who is their guardian?
Yeah, I have no idea.
It says, the mistress of the west wind blew them off course. You were taken here by the west wind. I suppose that makes some sense. You started west of here, yes?
Yes. Well, we've gleaned that we're northeast of us based on what she's told us. So yes.
I have 2 more questions. Would you ask one of them?
Yes. What is the purpose of this cloak?
The cloak protects you, it says, against your enemies. Wow. James, in the back of it now, you can, on your sheet, you can write cloak of protection +1.
Okay.
And she looks over at Mendy, and she says, would you ask a question? Or would you rather I ask a question?
I would prefer to ask a question.
She nods.
Whom can we always trust?
She looks over. She says, speak, spirit. Who can they always trust? And in the quill, in the air, you see in a trail of fire, all of a sudden it starts to jag these like lightning lines in there. And all you see is this path of jagged W-shaped lines in a circle that hangs in the middle of the air in fire. 20-sider, both of you.
9.
5.
You both recognize it right away. It's the holy symbol of Zagig.
Oh.
All right. Sabrala, Stargazer.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your help.
She nods. She says, do you think you are so easily rid of me? She smiles. She says, 11 of my men died for you. She looks over at the air where fire still hangs there in Zagig's emblem. One of the gods of our world. Here. You can put your trust in one of the gods of our world. The west wind protects you, and you think that a woman like myself was interested in epic tales? Do you think so? I would be so easily be rid of you? She laughs a bit.
Unfortunately, your people will suffer for us, and I cannot say that we will be worthy of their loss.
I am their captain. Then I make the decision for them. It seems to me that you are very important people. I think the kind of people my Jarl would want to know about. The only way I can tell him then is if I learn more of you. You have no more boat. I have a boat. If you were to walk across this land with that cloak of yours or not, you'd be frozen to ice.
Well, and I feel like the farther we get away from the dead woman and her curses, the better off we are. So
she looks at the both of you, kind of leans forward across the fire, says, then which way are we going, my friends?
To the city of Greyhawk.
If that is possible.
Come with me. She gets out, takes her cloak and puts it back a little bit higher on. Walks outside. Marissa grabs her helmet. They walk out. She kind of gives you like side eye when she she doesn't know quite what to make of the both of you now that all that has been said. She walks out. She looks at her men. She goes, does Karak live? No. Einar is your first now. Einar Vatunson. Get the boat ready. We take these men to the city of Greyhawk. He kind of looks at her like, that's the opposite. Heard what I said. To the free city of Grewhawk. We leave immediately. She looks over at you and just kind of gives a stern nod. Marissa looks over at the both of you and she says, I only really have one question right now. Where in the hell is Autumn?
That's what I was about to ask.
You guys look over when you say that. You see Shadow kind of walking towards you guys from the shore. Kind of raises up a mug. Heard I missed some excitement, she says. Why does everybody seem so down? I scared up a little bit of meat. Comes over.
It's good. I'm actually pleasantly surprised to see her. We thought you were lost to the undead.
Oh. Undead? Me?
No. Well, hopefully not.
No. Oh. The ghost ship.
No. I don't think that's it, Autumn. And we try to recant as quickly as we can as the men are getting ready. The undead forces that attacked Marissa and the party.
That's the one that was responsible for our friend, Creek. She nods. Well, so I guess we've got a ride then, huh?
We do at this point, and hopefully the ghost ship will not interfere, for there are forces, and I try to say this in a way that makes me sound important, but I'm going to fail it miserably because I have no idea what I'm talking about. There are forces railed against my sister and I. You have come. Are you sure you want to journey with us any further?
She starts to say something. She's about ready to say something, and Sabrala just kind of looks at her and she says, she has to. Isn't that right, West Wind? And she keeps walking past her. Autumn just kind of drinks out of her mug like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Meanwhile, Marissa says, listen, I have no idea what in the hell is going on here, okay? This West Wind, the symbol of Zagig, what is going on here exactly? I feel like I missed something.
Well,
Please somebody tell me what I just got my ass kicked for.
We have a destiny, my sister and I. You've been chosen to help us with this. We're still figuring it out. But no...
What does the gig have to do with it?
Our father has clearly aligned forces to protect us from something. Unfortunately, I wish I knew what I could tell you, what is going on.
The priesthood of Zagig? I feel like I bit off a lot more than I can chew here. And who the hell are you supposed to be? She looks over, Marissa looks over at Autumn. Every 5 seconds you're disappearing. You just show up whenever you feel like it. Whenever somebody around here is in the middle of being in trouble, you just disappear. Are you a friend or not? I brought back some meat. She shrugs.
It is best we eat. The journey is long. I agree with Autumn. I'm being a little standoffish to Marissa because she got beaten up a little bit, but...
Yeah. You say that, you could swear to God as Autumn is drinking out of her mug, she just kind of shoots a little wink. Little wry wink.
Carlos, I'd like to sneak off just a little bit to pray to Farligan, who's my deity, the deity of travel, just to seek any guidance, and particularly whether or not we can trust Autumn.
Make me a percentage die.
Okay. A 5. 0, 5.
Something in the pit of your gut makes you think that not only can you trust Autumn, you can implicitly trust Autumn.
Okay. Sounds like She is the West Wind, maybe. Okay, all right. And I will, when I get a chance, I will tell that to my brother that I prayed to my deity and the sense
everybody's getting themselves ready. Marissa's going over and Marissa's just kind of thrown up her hands about this. She's a simple fighter. She doesn't really get all this, so she's helping the men put stuff on the boat and get everything ready. Autumn's off watching them drinking.
Well, I'm talking to Autumn now. I mean, I'm.
Oh, you want to talk to Autumn?
Well,
okay, she's
I'm just, she mentioned the meat and stuff, and I'm spending time with her, because clearly I like Mendy said, the West Wind, the mistress of the West Wind. I'm trying to understand and ingratiate myself to her. Because for now, I'm attracted by power, so she's moved up on my target acquisition layer.
Right,
so
she's just drinking her out of her mug. I want you to also make me a 20-sider.
Okay.
Both of
12.
You. Actually.
I rolled a 12.
Yeah. I rolled a 5.
As intelligent as you both are, you're also pretty. You're insightful men and women. You notice something about this. You have always, always, always seen Autumn drinking. You have never once ever seen her refill that mug, and it is always full.
Yeah, detect magic would be great, but we don't have that. We have message.
Yeah, she's drinking out of it, listening to you guys talk. What are you gonna tell her? What are you gonna say?
Well,
you're gonna ingratiate yourself.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it is curious that you disappear and come back either when we most need you or when the trouble has ended. You're capricious like the West Wind. Why is that?
She shrugs a little bit. She goes, I'm a druid. She says, maybe I am the West Wind. She drinks a little bit.
Warm and embracing or biting and...
Well, she kind of leans forward a bit. And as she does, things about her that you're noticing. Autumn, because we haven't talked about her too much, you haven't really sat with her too often. Autumn is about, she's probably about 5'5", 5'4". She's got curly, kind of long red hair, kind of a auburny red. She's not fat, but she's not skinny. Yeah. She's very buxom. And she is wearing the kind of robes and an open enough top that she should have goose flesh everywhere.
Right.
She does not at all have goose flesh. That doesn't necessarily surprise you from somebody from the old Kirk, from the old faith, that she might be inured to weather. I mean, she's a druid, but it's just one of those other things that is starting to, the more that you're around her, the more you're getting this weird feeling about her that she is not of this world. Mm. Mm. And she just, she kind of shrugs her shoulders. She goes, I believe very firmly in people of destiny being able to guide their own destiny. And the funny thing about the West Wind is the West Wind is strongest in autumn. I think that's really what she means.
Yes.
I think she's being literal. Not really figure, I think she just is really making a reference to my name.
Yes. Well, I take that all in, and again, half studying her, half trying to be ingratiating, and I think we'll leave it at that. Because again, I'm interested in just drinking and eating because
we're not really done, all of us yet. Mm. You look like you could use a drink.
Oh, you got that right.
She looks over at you, Mendy. Look like you need to learn how to make a drink. She winks at you.
Sounds like fun.
Here, come on, sit down right next to me.
I do.
She says, she's like, Marissa's not using this anymore. Puts her helmet down. Have a seat. Okay. Reaches into her pocket. Starts pulling out this kind of like this grain. Over the next half an hour, she begins to teach you how to make this drink. I need you to make me a 20-sider.
16.
Okay. After you're done, James, she says, when we're all done here, I want you to drink this. You can tell me how your sister did. Switch seats. Switch seats. Switch seats.
I switch seats.
Sits down. Now you look like you could use a drink after all that work. You look like you need to learn how to make one.
Okay.
Have a seat. She pulls out a whole different set of unguents and starts teaching you how to make something different. Your drink that she teaches you how to make is very effervescent, whereas Dan's drink is kind of a pale blue, kind of it smells a little bit maybe like cotton candy-ish. Yours is kind of effervescent. It's clear. It's very it pops very hard. And when you're done, she says, "Okay, now switch bottles and drink each other's drink and tell me what you think."
Do I need to roll 20?
Yeah.
19.
Okay. Tasty.
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably horrible.
Dan? Dan, go ahead and are you going to drink the one that James made?
Of course, it'd be rude not to.
Okay. You drink the one that he made. As you drink it, you feel kind of, I don't know, kind of like a lightness feeling all over your body. Kind of like a gentle kind of a buoyancy almost.
Okay.
Right?
Great.
James, are you going to drink the one that she made you?
Yeah.
That Mindy made
does
you?
it smell weird after?
Yeah, it does smell weird. It smells to you kind of like a sugary syrup.
Okay, but it's not repulsive.
No, not repulsive.
Okay, well I'll say I hope you didn't screw this up and drink it.
You drink a little bit of it, and immediately you feel a little bit like more energized.
Okay.
A little bit, maybe a little bit healthier, a little more energetic.
This good job.
I want the both of you to pay very close attention to what you did. She says, and hands both of you a bag. She says, there's enough in there to make an entire potion full of it for both of you.
Okay.
But you just got your first lesson in alchemy. She goes, I bet you the mistress at Crossroads didn't teach you that one. Kind of winks and turns around and walks away.
I would write down the recipe, but James used up his quill, didn't he?
That's right. Yeah, I don't have a quill now.
James and Dan, make me a 20-sider.
10.
16.
Both of you being as intelligent as you are, neither one of you has ever told her who you studied with.
Wow, yes. That's... Yeah, unless she knew it in the town, because she met us there, she wouldn't have known.
Yeah, yeah, it's just curious. Another weirdness about her.
Well, we need to remind ourselves when time is changing ever, sister. The only thing is constant is our bond. I try to say it with a straight face, but it didn't really come off that well.
Yep. I immediately start laughing. and I spit my drink out at him.
As you're spitting it out, Marissa is walking back. She's got her spear over her shoulders. Goes, are you two degenerates ready?
Oh, we're ready to face the new what our great destiny is. May the power of Zagig and the West Wind protect us. I have no idea what I'm saying.
Oh, so now you worship Zagig and the West Wind, right?
It is my father's will.
Kind of looks at you askance. And that's where we're going to end for today's
That's perfect. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks, Carlos.
Thank you, Carlos. Yeah.
No problem, guys. Yeah. You guys learned a lot about the setting.
That's right.
You learned a little bit more about the hex, as is the lesson. I try to teach you the last bit about the hex that you needed to know. which is weather and climb and what you could expect from environmental here. And you learn a little bit about the meta plot that's going on that Victor and myself have concocted.
Wonderful. Well, and at least we have some semblance of what's going on, but we really don't. But we'll figure it out. So we'll and if we don't, that's half the fun too. So excellent.
For those of you out there, I saw David mention about Bacab and Zagig. There's about 7 Easter eggs that I dropped in there about different Greyhawk gods. I'll let you guys put them all together.
Wonderful. Well, Carlos, best wishes to you. Best wishes to Amanda. We'll talk to you. We've got a full plate like you. Every week we're having a show. We've got a lot of folks coming on. So just make sure you keep on Twitter, Castle Entertainment for Twitter. He's also on Facebook and go on Twitch and obviously Castle Entertainment. So thank you so much for your time.
Thanks so much too, and give my best regards to Drumage. He was actually my guest on my second Castle Talk.
Yep.
So he's a buddy of mine too. So
we're going to give him a call right now. So we'll talk to you later.
Bye now.
Bye.
Bye, Carlos.
Welcome back to Grog Talk. I'm James.
I'm Dan.
And so Dan, we have a new figure replacing Carlos. So Dan, why don't you introduce our guest, who really doesn't need much introduction, but introduce him regardless.
You got it. So it is our absolute pleasure to have Jim Ward on the show, who of course is one of the, close to being a founding member, right? I mean, we'll talk about that there from the beginning.
So I would say I was in there in the beginning, yeah.
Yeah, right?
I definitely helped edit and produce AD&D, so that's part. Gary taught me how to play in 1974, so I was in the beginning.
And the reason why we're really thrilled to have you on is in Grog Talk this year, we're celebrating the 40th anniversary of 1980. And of course, 1980 saw the publication of a book James and I absolutely love, Deities and Demigods, of course.
Well, and so welcome, Jim. Thank you for coming on. And Jim's story not only covers AD&D, but Metamorphosis Alpha, Gamma World. I mean, all these great, not only genres-defining games, but from that time forward. So again, thank you, Jim, for coming on.
That's okay. Hey, I also have a big anniversary.
You do?
On April 4th, 1984, I was fired from TSR.
Oh.
I know that. I know that. It's right. It's on here.
We lost 55 people in the third purge of 5 different purges, where they went from 386 people to 86 people. So I always celebrate that day.
We had Alan Hammock on recently, and I can't remember. I don't think we asked him what purge number he was, but he was one of the. He was right. Was he before or after you? Do you remember?
I think he was before me. I think he was second purge.
Okay. Well, Jim, thank you so much for coming on the show. Because I know you've talked about it many times. Hopefully, you haven't grown tired of talking about how you met Gary Gygax back in 1974.
It's my favorite story to tell.
Perfect.
So I just graduated from college. I'm student teacher, I'm substitute teaching, and I go over every Tuesday to the Lake Geneva Smoke Shop because they get in fantasy and science fiction books every Tuesday. So I go over there, and I'm buying some books. I'm buying an Ellsberg de Camp Conan book. I'm buying an Andrea Norton book. I'm buying a couple Heinlein books. And as I go down the rows, this biker dude is beside me. He's got one of these blue jean jackets on. He has one of those long wallets with the chain on it, He's got heavy boots on and ripped jeans. And I'm done. I have 7 books in my hand. And I turn over to him. He has the exact 7 books in his hand.
Wow.
So we kind of laugh about that, and we start talking about what we like to read. And he said he had a game where I could play Conan the Barbarian and fight set. And he hooked me in like a fish. It was Gary Gygax, and a couple weeks later, I went over to his house and he taught me how to play D&D. And so that's how I met the man, and I've been doing well ever since.
Jim, were you playing war games at the time? Were you doing any gaming of any kind at the time?
Does poker count?
Sure.
My dad taught me how to play poker so that he could steal my allowances from me. That was about the only game I was playing in those days.
Okay. And can you tell us a little bit, because you said you went over there on a Saturday, right?
Yeah.
Can you just describe to us that first time you went there and you played? Who was there?
Oh, sure. Okay. So, Brian Bloom was there. He was one of the founders of TSR. He just passed away.
Yes, we just heard.
And Ernie Gygax was Gary's son. He was in 8th grade at the time. And Don Kay was a friend of Ernie's. There was a couple Don Kays, so don't get confused. There was a Don Kay that was Gary's childhood friend, and he helped Gary set up TSR, but he died just before 1974. But Don Kay was another 8th grader that was Ernie's friend. And he took us out to this patio place with a lot of screens and a nice breeze, and we all sat on couches, and they showed me these really weird dice. And I hate to admit it, but it took me 6 months to figure out how to do those dice. We didn't have 20-siders in those days. We had a 10-sider with 2 sets of numbers from 0 to 10, and we rolled the 6-sided die. And 1 through 3, you didn't add 10 to the 6-sided die, and 4, 5, 6, you did add 10 to the 6-sided. Took me forever to figure that out, I'm ashamed to say. But we rolled up our dice, 3d6, and you rolled them up, and we didn't get to pick anything. You started with strength, and you got down to charisma, and wherever your numbers were. And I just happened to roll a couple good numbers in intelligence and dexterity, so they suggested I become a wizard. I love the thought of that. Actually, so now it's been, that was 74. So it's been a zillion years, and all I play is wizards. I just love casting spells and using magic wands so much that I'm not interested in playing any other character. So we went to Kong Island on that adventure. It was Gary writing out how to do that Kong Island, which turned into a module later on. And we walked around the island in the dark. It was midnight when we hit it. And we found a bunch of native huts. And I foolishly cast a light spell in the biggest hut because I wanted to see what was there. It was 10 Zulu-style natives. They come boiling out of the hut and chasing us with spears. And my adventure ended when a Zulu threw a spear through my back. And I hit the ground, and that was it. And then a couple weeks later, I came back to play again. And Ernie, Gary's son, had used a wish and wished us all back alive and well. So I got to keep that character, and I ran him in Gary's campaign forever. He got to be a 14th level wizard.
And what I think is interesting is that we've had other guests on the show who have talked about it. The first character often seems to be a wizard. You die in your very first game, and you love it.
Right.
This is very old school, right? I mean, what is it about dying in your first game, and yet there's something about it that makes you love it?
It's a fair question. You don't get attached to your character if you die in your first game. I've seen it time and time again where people start bawling about their character dying and being so very unhappy about their character dying because they've been playing them for a couple years and they have a lot of time and effort invested in them. But you just can't do that. Gary taught me to have exciting, difficult adventures, and that's how all of my game designs down through the years, and I've designed hundreds of adventures, have all been extremely tough, and they've all been extremely deadly. Because the fun part of this game is sitting on the edge of your seat, being, worried about your character. So I find that exhilarating, and I try to to get that going in my games. I know the big boys, Pathfinder and Wizards of the Coast, they hate it when a character dies because they think they're going to lose that player. But I don't think that's the case.
And can I ask you what the name of your first, and this is going to be, James, I want you to listen carefully. This is very important. What was the name of your first character, that wizard?
Yeah, okay, so I'm not going to write it out, but you know Bombadil of Lord of the Rings?
Oh, yes, I know Tom Bombadil very well, yes.
Okay, good. So I used his name backwards.
Hmm.
Gary was a fiend for backwards names. That's how Drawmage got invented. There's a bunch of names on his Greyhawk map that are all friends with their names backwards, and so that's what I did. I did Bombadil backwards.
So is it fair to say that you are a fan of Tom Bombadil?
Who doesn't love that guy?
I know, right? Who in the world wouldn't love Tom Bombadil? I can't imagine anybody who wouldn't love Tom Bombadil and wouldn't be upset about its removal from the movie.
He's married to a gorgeous woman.
See? I told you, James, exactly. Anyone who can get Goldberry, exactly.
Yes.
James, I'm sorry.
Anybody who's immune to the ring, I have to give my respect to.
There, exactly. I've told James this. You can find it on tape. These are the 2 points. He's got Goldberry, and he's immune to the ring. Seriously? Right. James, what do you have to say for yourself?
I think the only good news about Tom Bombadil was about 30 or 40 pages in the Fellowship that I didn't have to read, and I could just skip over that and get me to the fighting. That's what I cared about. I mean,
there's two kinds.
So I get you to those barrel
mounts. That's
right. There's two kind of Lord of the Rings readers: those who read the poems and songs, and those who don't. Right? James does not.
Right.
It's true. I'm always a poem reader.
Well, and it's interesting because our friend Menyon, he just did a review of Lord of the Rings. There's been, everything comes back in circle, and the movies, both the 2001, the 2000s, and the 70s, they skipped that, and there's pros and cons to it. I mean, you look at the totality of what Tolkien put in. He had a reason to put it in there, but in many ways, Tolkien was the gateway to this for people of my generation, where older generations had Vance and Liebert and a lot of other folks where we missed that. And so I think in some ways that's changed the game in the 80s and 90s, because if we grew up in the things that you read, Jim and Gary and the rest of them, we probably still would have stayed with the more pulpy, hey, you die, so what kind of thing. But Tolkien became the standard. And so it's just very interesting if we had, and now it's kind of full circle again, people are looking at the OSR and saying, hey, wait a minute, Tolkien is not the beginning of fantasy. There's plenty of fantasy before that. So it is very cyclical.
Is he implying that I'm old?
No, you're just older than us. That's it.
He's not saying you read Conan when it came
That's
out.
That's right.
I'm older than most everybody.
Yeah. It's Burroughs was not a personal friend of yours. It's not that kind of thing. So.
Oh, he wasn't. What I wish he was.
Right.
Oh man, those Carson of Mars, John Carter of Mars books. I just loved every single one of them.
Yeah. Go ahead, Dan.
I just say, what would you say Gary's primary influences were? So when you played D&D with Gary back 74, 75, because a lot of us, like James says, we equate it with Lord of the Rings. What do you think was Gary's biggest influences, the way he was running games?
Well, I have to tell you, Gary was a voracious reader. We didn't have the internet in those days. And so he did tons of research. I bet he went to the library every single day in Lake Geneva. And he loved reading. He loved reading all genres. When I hit him, he was reading Bernard Caldwell's Sharpe's books, and he really loved those. And he was really into mythology. So he was a great resource for me when I was doing Deities and Demigods. So he was just a widely read person that did all genres absolutely.
Okay. And can you tell us a little bit about, I assume when you started playing with Gary in 74, you were going through Castle Greyhawk?
Yes, the city of Greyhawk and the Castle Greyhawk, yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about that? Because my understanding is there's some levels of that, right, which have still not seen the light of day, right?
Okay, so this is getting on the edge of lawsuit territory.
Oh, okay, sorry.
There's a certain person who is keeping that whole Greyhawk Castle and Greyhawk City material for herself so that she can get millions of dollars. No one's going to give her millions of dollars for it. But I had the pleasure of reviewing Gary's whole castle. It's an amazing place. He did it in 1973, and you know what? Even today, there isn't a single designer in the world, including myself, who can come even close to how excellent that thing is.
And what made it so good? What was it about it?
Well, this is another thing. In Gary's time, that's the beginning of everything. So we didn't have the storyline was a big deal. For me, the storyline is a very big deal. In Gary's time, the storyline wasn't a big deal. So it was find the monster, fight the monster, grab its treasure, over and over and over again. So what Gary did with his gigantic castle Greyhawk was give you a bunch of different experiences. So it wasn't just the same monster all the time. It was different monsters out of mythology all the time. He had a whole level where all the monsters turn you to stone. It was just the nastiest place you could ever imagine. I got turned to stone 3 different times on that level.
See, you're talking to someone who's old school when they say that and they find it entertaining.
Yeah, 3, not just once, 3 times. Yeah,
they're laughing.
I know. So lucky for us, Ernie, and there's another factor of Gary's coolness. Gary had to play test all the magic items that he put in the game. So when these older companies, when these Pathfinders and these Magic the Gathering people say Gary was a conservative DM, that's absolutely crazy. Gary was a Monty Hall DM just like me. He had to insert tons of magic items to find out what they would do to his game. He had to find out what a power staff would do in his dungeons. He had to find out what a ring of regeneration would do to his dungeons. So there was tons of magic in there. And lucky for me, Ernie, his son, found a portable hole. So what would happen is we'd get turned to stone, and Ernie would put the statue in the hole and take us back to Greyhawk City. And there was a black tower, Greyhawk City, with a really high-level wizard. And we would go and we would trade really expensive magic items. And this was a game balancing feature in Gary's game. We'd trade really expensive magic items to get turned back to flesh. And so, and it was more than 3 times for me. Our whole group got stoned tons of times as we met Gorgons and Basilisks and Medusas and cockatrice. And you haven't lived until you get hit with a cockatrice feather whip and get turned to stone.
That's right. Life is not perfect until then.
Oh, that's interesting. And my understanding is you were the original Monty Hall DM, and you make no apologies about it.
Oh, I love being a Monty Hall DM. I like the expression on the people's faces. You find a huge chest with 150 gems. I like the smiles on my players' faces when they see that. Or you find a chest that has 10 different potions in it. Oh my goodness. And so I just enjoy people's glee at finding really important magic items and treasures.
And Gary gave you that moniker, right?
Yeah, well, yes. Okay, so interesting little story. We go to Gary's house, I think it was every Thursday night now, but we go to Gary's house, and before the real game, Ernie and I and a couple other guys would try DMing each other. And so I was DMing my own dungeon with Ernie and a couple of the guys, and I had these sashes that go across your chest, and they gave you martial arts skills. And so I had 3 werebears, and they had these sashes, and Ernie and the group fought them and killed them all. And Gary was sitting listening there, and so when everything was done, Gary was kind of chuckling rudely at me. And I said, "What did I do wrong?" And he said, "You're a Monty Hall judge." And I said, "What in the world is that?" you're a guy who gives away too much stuff for too little effort. And so that was one of Gary's big points that I took to heart. If you're going to give away stuff, you got to make it really dangerous so that they, have to work to survive.
That's awesome.
Well, James, I would like to introduce, I'd like to officially introduce Exhibit A,
okay.
the foreword to Gods, Demigods, and Heroes, written by Tim Kask. Do I have permission to introduce this as Exhibit A?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Judge. So Tim Kask, we're having Tim Kask on next week, right, on the show. So Tim Kask wrote this. I thought it was interesting. I read the foreword to the book, to Gods, Demigods, and Heroes in '76. And this is what it says. And I was curious about this because Tim Kask says, this volume is something else also. Our last attempt to reach the Monty Hall DMs. Perhaps now some of the giveaway campaigns will look as foolish as they truly are. So, so that was interesting to me. Is that a gentle poke at you, or
a shot at me?
Yeah.
Those poor guys. Okay, so they're sitting in the what street was that? It was by the Pizza Hut. Anyway, they're sitting in the new offices of TSR, and they get hundreds of letters from kids who have 20 and 30th level characters, and this was before Gary had designed 20 and 30th level characters. So they got this real bad attitude about people's games and how quick they went from first level to 20th level. And so those became the Monty Hall people. But after a while, Gary started complaining about Monty Hall people in Dragon Magazine as well, even though he was one. Okay. And so that's why Tim took a shot at me on that.
Now, go ahead, Jan.
No, you can see, and he does say this is our last attempt to delineate the absurdity of 40-plus level characters.
We have some chat folks, and they all say, it's great to see you, Jim. David from Australia, he has a question. So if someone, based on what you just said, if someone were to write a letter to TSR in the mid to late 70s, who would have written back at that point?
Oh, they switched off. Every week, a different person got the basket full of letters and was told to write back.
Wow.
So Tim did a week, Brian Bloom did a week, Gary did a week. They all just switched off with that duty because, that was one thing that Gary, again, instilled in me. The consumers are important. They're paying your wage. So you got to pay attention to them, and you got to pay attention to what they're saying. And Gary was great at doing that. So that's the way I did it too. When I got into TSR and started in management, I read all the letters that came into TSR because I wanted to respond to people. That's how we got our different campaign worlds. Al-Qadim and Ravenloft and Boot Hill. We wanted to appeal to all the different segments of people and their interests. And I think we did a great job.
Awesome. Great. Dan?
Well, yeah. Well, what I think was interesting is that a lot of people who became involved with D&D and doing work for TSR were freelancers, right? I mean, I think Ed Greenwood we had on the show, I think about a month ago. You were not, right? I mean, what's interesting is you did not become an official employee, right, I believe, until what? Or I think till they could afford to equal the salary you were making as a teacher, right?
There's an interesting story there. Okay, so it's 1974, and I go to be a teacher in Prairie du Chien, Wisconsin. Moved my whole family up there. So every vacation time, we'd go down to Elkhorn, where I lived, and I would go over and play games with Gary and the group. And so from 74 to 1980, I told Gary, anytime you can afford my teacher salary, I'll be happy to come and work for the company. So in 1980, he gives me a call. How much you making, Jim? I'm making $9,700 a year, Gary. Okay, come on down. I go and work there, and I worked till 1984, April 4th, as it turned out. And I get fired with 55 other people. And so for the next 18 months, I'm writing books for the book department. And some wise accountant in accounting looks at all the checks that I'm getting from writing one-on-one books, catacomb books, and choose your own adventure books. And they say, we're paying this guy too much money. Let's hire him back and give him a salary, and we'll have to pay him half of what we've been paying. And so that's what they did. They hired me back, and I started working on laser tag game books.
Jim, were you the only person that you know of that was hired back?
No, lots of people were hired back.
Oh, okay. Could you talk a little bit about the idea for gods, demigods, and heroes? Because what's interesting is this was very soon, right? I mean, this was very soon after you had met Gary. I know it's published in '76. You're not working for the company, so whose idea was it, and were you compensated for it?
Okay, so you're asking all these interesting stories. All right, so I started out. I played D&D, and I just loved it. I was so hooked. I can't tell you how hooked I was. So I told Gary, you need a science fiction version of this. And Gary said, Jim, I just haven't got the time to write it right now. Why don't you give it a try? So he had no idea if I could write. He had no idea. He just thought maybe because I was a pretty good D&D player that I could maybe manage it. So I wrote Metamorphosis Alpha, all right? First science fiction role-playing game. And I was off like crazy. Okay, I can write things now. So again, I suggested to Gary, you got all the other areas covered. You got the fighters covered, you got the wizards covered. We really need the clerics to have the gods to call on to help them out. So Gary said, okay, give it a try, Jim. So he hooked me up with Rob Kuntz, and it was a ton of library work. Again, no internet in those days. So I was at the library all summer long researching different pantheons, used the Golden Bough, used a bunch of other books, and Gods, Demigods, and Heroes got developed.
And you had a debate with Gary over hit points, right? I mean, I don't know if that was only for the Deities and Demigods, or did that debate come about for the gods, demigods, and heroes?
You really did your research. I'm very impressed with you, young man.
Thank you.
The debate on hit points didn't come until I did Deities and Demigods. I wanted to give, so I had different levels of gods. So we had the primary gods, Odin, 4, those are the big boys. Then we had demigods, which are kind of half god, half human, and then we had heroes. So I wanted all of the head of pantheons, Zeus and Odin and all those boys, to have 1,000 hit points. And Gary said, absolutely not. Absolutely not. They can have 400 hit points, but what happens is they don't die when they get killed. And see, that was one of the things that was happening in the letters. They get letters saying, well, we killed Odin this weekend, and now we're looking for Set and Isis. So Gary explained to me, they don't die. They're avatars. Die on this earth, but they go back to their own plane of existence, Valhalla in the case of Odin and the boys, and they regenerate and they come back again. So they never get killed physically, and so that I had to agree with him. I mean, first of all, when Gary Gygax says, "No, Jim, you're gonna have 400 hit points for Odin," you say, "Yes, sir," and you get back to work. So we didn't disagree about a lot of things. He really liked the magic items that I did from history, and he really liked some of the monsters that I found historical notes on. But hit points was about the only thing we really disagreed on.
Well, James and I, we absolutely love Deities and Demigods. I mean, a lot of people talk about the core books, and they talk about the 3, of course. But, my view is that there's 4 core books. And did you come up with, so the non-human deities, which, if I recall correctly, the non-human deities were not included in the gods, demigods, and heroes. Right. But they are included in Deities and Demigods, and I love them. I think they're great. I wish there had been more. I'm a big fan of Roger Moore's additional ones that he published. Did you come up with those?
Yeah, I came up with them on Gary's order, actually. He said he needed some gods for the orcs. I said, okay, I can manage that. So we did pretty much most of the races got their own pantheons.
Oh, then this is great. Okay, so it is time. Could you please tell us how to pronounce the name of the orc deity so we can get this solved once and for all?
Yeah, no thank you.
Really?
Really?
It's your deity.
Actually, it's Hasbro's.
That's right.
Okay. And
well, I don't think you're going to sue for saying the name, are you?
I don't think I can get sued either, but I'm not.
The deity that shall not be named.
James, I asked you to direct the witness to answer the question, please.
I think it's not relevant to the matter at hand. He is the.
There we go. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Wow.
My side.
Okay. This is very important. Then, James, do you realize who we have on the show? We have on the show apparently the person who created Garl Glittergold, the gnome deity, and Kurtulamak, the kobold deity, right? So that's fair to say, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. And he just says it like, yeah. I'd be like, that's right, because I'm a huge gnome fan. So that means you are responsible for the story of Garl Glittergold collapsing the ceiling on Kurtulamak.
That's right.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
The old trickster.
That's great. Can you tell us about that? I love that. Look, I know this sounds.
Yeah, I was going to be grilled about a book that I wrote 42 years ago.
Oh, that's all we do.
I warned you, sir. I told you.
We stop. We don't recognize anything after 1985. It stops for us.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So all right. So it sounds like you probably don't remember a lot about coming up with that back, because I love that backstory. I'm a huge gnome fan, and so I love that story. It's classic gnome to me. But it sounds like you probably don't remember coming up with that.
You have.
Look, see there. There you go. Look.
Yes.
That one.
That's my mug. I can't get it back because I have a stay-home order.
You have to go to Troll Lord Games, and you have to get one of their books called Of Gods and Monsters. I did the exact same thing with Pantheons for C&C. Are you familiar with C&C?
Yep.
I am not.
Castle Crusades.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Okay. So I did the very same thing with Pantheons. You'll love the gnomes in that book.
Oh,
I despise them, so that's why we have this thing. So.
Well, and Jim can confirm, he's done it before, he did it on Carlos's show, that Gary Gygax played a gnome illusionist thief, I believe, right?
Yes, he did.
Okay.
All the time. It wasn't his favorite character. Grog, the dwarf.
I have no further questions. No further questions. I'm sorry, you said go ahead. The dwarf.
Right. But in the Of Gods and Monsters Pantheon book, I had matured, of course, as a designer. It was like 30 years later. And so what I did was I gave all the gods avatars. They didn't come down as themselves. They came down as normal people with exceptional abilities. And they gave each of their worshipers a gift. So if you worshiped the god of fighters, then you had a little extra Benny when it came to fighting. So I wanted to increase the role-playing element of the Pantheon books, and I think I succeeded. It's a fun book. I don't even think it's in print right now. They've sold so many of them.
That's awesome.
Okay, great. And I didn't mean to cut you off because we love Gary's stories too. So you said, was Gary's favorite? You were talking about Gary and a dwarf. Was that his favorite character to play? Was a dwarf?
Dwarf, yeah, Grog the dwarf. It was his favorite character, and actually, I'm just filled with stories today. So the time is 1978, and I'm going over to Gary's house every Thursday night to play the game with Gary and his friends. And one day, I'm playing the game, and we go down into a section of his dungeons that we'd never been in before. It was really exciting of what we were uncovering. And we came to this place where there was this gigantic metal portal. And oh man, it piqued our curiosity. But we had all survived Tomb of Horrors. So we were not just going into an empty, dark place. So we tested it. We threw ropes in. We threw plants in. We had a rat that we threw in and pulled back out. And all the tests were fine. So we all jumped into this portal, including Gary's character, Grewhawk the dwarf. And we were on the Starship Warden.
Ah.
Gary says to me, Jim, have you got your warden material with you? And I said, yeah, sure, Gary, I got it in the car. He said, Jim, would you please bring it in? And so I had no idea what he wanted, but I mean, it was Gary Gygax. So when he asked you to do something, you do it. And so I brought it in, and Gary had switched chairs. So for several years, Gary had sat at the end of the table in the DM chair, and we all sat around the table listening to him be a DM. That chair was empty, and Gary was sitting in my chair with a character sheet in front of him. I was extremely nervous. So Gary said, go ahead, sit there, Jim. So I sat in Gary's DM chair, and Gary said, we've all been transported to the Starship Warden. And I said to myself, oh no, my favorite elf, half-thief wizard character, Rand of the Blade, has been transported to the Starship Warden. And so for several weeks, I had to run the game from Gary's chair, and I had to watch my beloved elf character and a bunch of other fantasy characters roam the Starship Warden and not kill them off. It was very difficult.
Oh, yeah. Awesome.
Finally, this year, we did this huge Kickstarter on the Warden. We did all the 17 levels and all the 16 in-between levels as a Kickstarter for Troll Lords. And one of the adventures for the Kickstarter was Save the Elf Prince Ren. And so now there's an adventure where you take your fantasy characters, C&C 9th level elf characters in this case, and you go on the starship and you try to survive all the horrors of the starship and the mutations and save the elf Ren. So I've got a good chance of getting my elf to come back home.
Awesome.
Do you still have his original character sheet?
Somewhere buried in the archives. You know how that is.
Yeah, we're just going to need your, before we get off this show, we want to get your address for just for official
That's
reasons. Right. It's legal reasons. It's necessary. Big FCC rule.
Yeah, just as long as you don't ask for any checks to go with it.
No.
No worries. Okay, I've been dying. I'm full of questions, as you know. I've been dying to ask this question, and I know the answer to this. I know this. I know what I'm going to tell you is false.
You never ask questions unless you know the answer.
Exactly.
That's why he's an attorney.
So, there is a story out there that you are responsible for the monk. Are you aware that there's a story out there that you're responsible for the monk?
Actually, Dave Arneson is responsible for the monk.
Because the rumor is that you were a fan of the song Kung Fu Fighting. And therefore,
Oh my God.
No. Right. That's not true, right?
That's not true, absolutely. What was the name of that book? Eldred Wizardry. Dave Arneson had designed the monk traits. And so he was the guy who set that up and got it going. It was a little more powerful than they anticipated, but it was him. I love the monk. I love the monk character, but I never played one myself, or actually, I don't think I ever had any players that played them either.
And I've heard that Brian Bloom, I think, was a big fan, and Tim Kask hated it, and Gary agreed to use it. And
yeah, that's about right. Brian really loved martial arts. He didn't do any of them, but he really loved them. And Tim was happy to say no to anything.
We can ask him. We're getting material for next week.
Yeah, really. You'll find him a delightful interview. He has lots of good aspects about the game and gaming.
Well, yeah, we're looking forward to it. Could you talk a little bit about, my understanding is you wrote Deities and Demigods in the summer of '79, right, during your break from teaching.
Yes.
So you're not working, right? So a lot of people probably don't realize this for TSR.
Right, I'm not working as a full-time employee. Yeah.
And not working for TSR when you write this.
Right.
So can you talk a little bit about, because it's an incredible book, and the amount of effort that you put into it is clear. So what was that summer like when you were putting this together? Because if I understand it, even though it's co-authored, I think that it's mainly, right, I think Rob Kuntz at that time had other responsibilities, and a lot of it, right, fell on you, I believe.
I never talked about what Rob did or didn't do in that book. So it was the summertime, and I had this writing assignment, and I was really just loving the assignment. And the guys at TSR sent me 1,000 photocopied templates for the gods, in the template that we use in the book itself. And they sent me 1,000 of those sheets. And so what I would do is I'd start on a pantheon of gods, and I'd do a bunch of research. I'd jot down the various magic items that they had. I'd jot down the creatures that they faced, and I'd put them in the templates. And then when I got done with the Norse template, I would send that over to TSR, and they started editing it. So I just did template after template after template, and as I got them done, I sent them to TSR.
Okay, got it. James, do we have any chat out there? I don't want.
Yeah, there's actually a kind of a specific question that and you mentioned that the somewhat controversy of statting the deities and then people trying to kill them, and then once you set up the planes, one of the questions was, and whether you remember this, all of them had variable damage except the Sumerian deities. Why did they did specific damage versus all the other deities had random damage? Was that just from your research that they did that?
It was just from my research that they didn't give specific numbers, but they gave very specific effects from their attacks. And so that's what I used for those. That was a great question, whoever asked.
That was David from our friend in Australia who has been playing so long that he actually wrote a letter and got a letter back. So that was his question. Now the cosmology, because to me, what differentiates AD&D and that ilk is the alignment system as it's made, and also the cosmology that's behind it. Were you put in charge of that, and what was your approach to the outer planes, inner planes, and? Okay,
great. That's a great question. I actually am only responsible for the plane of concordant opposition, the neutral plane in the middle. Okay. Gary put all the rest of those planes based on his research on like different. He was a great big Dante fan, yeah. So the different levels of hell and that kind of thing, kind of worked that into the game. So I only did the neutral plane in the middle, and I'm still quite proud of it because it's a way cool place.
Right.
But he did the Happy Hunting Grounds, and he did all those other planes.
Because it's kind of like college football. The best part about college football here in the United States is trying to figure out who's number one. Having a playoff is ruined that. The same thing with the alignment. It's constantly having the battle with your player. No, that's a lawful good character would do that, or a chaotic eater. That's what makes it entertaining.
Yeah. Gary was quite savage about alignments. If you did stuff that was contrary to your alignment, you changed. Gary changed you. So I started out lawful good because I thought that's what I should be. But time and time again, he bumped me until finally I was chaotic good. So Gary was very specific about alignments, and those poor paladins. I played a paladin once, and it gave me a headache. they're so straight, they're so lawful,
right?
that they're difficult for me to deal with.
And Jeff, if I can ask you about alignment for a second. So I know in Deities and Demigods, it indicates that a cleric's alignment has to be identical to that of their patron deity. So was that, do you remember making that decision? Because, sometimes it can be kind of hard. I mean, if I recall in the Dungeons Master's Guide, it says something about it doesn't necessarily, and I apologize if a bit of a Dragon's Foot episode breaks out here. But, it says, Gary apparently said it doesn't necessarily have to be, and then Deities and Demigods says it does. So was that a conscious decision that you made?
It was because, again, Gary was a stickler for alignments. So I said to myself, okay, if that's the way Gary wants to play it, I don't have a problem with that. And if you vary from the alignment of your deity, then you're gonna be getting another deity is what's gonna happen.
Okay.
So that happened a couple times in my games. For me as a player, I can remember one really nasty time. I was I was a follower of Isis, goddess of magic, in Gary's Grewhawk game. And so I think I grabbed something that I wasn't supposed to grab in an Egyptian tomb. I think it was like a tiara or something. And Isis got really mad at me and made it clear she was mad at me by throwing thunderbolts at me. So I know. So I rushed into a temple in Grewhawk, and I undid my faith in Isis for another deity, and she was pretty nasty to me for a long time. I had to give up lots of treasure to appease her. Just fun role-playing stuff.
And you know, so speaking of clerics, do you know why Gary chose to have so many races could only be NPC clerics? So, you know, it's the famous parentheses in the player's handbook. So, you know, dwarves, elves, and gnomes, it's only NPC. And I've never really understood, I mean, if there are gnome clerics, why can't, and they're adventuring gnome clerics, why can't I be a gnome cleric?
Yeah, okay, that's all. See, this is something nobody sees. Gary worked very hard at balancing his game, right? That's why clerics can't use swords. Well, the original clerics. They really want me to vote for some strange reason.
It's good for them.
We're gonna ignore that. Yeah, stop it. Be quiet.
GROGTALK's more important than democracy.
Is that the Grog line? That's you know.
The Grog line.
So, I'm sorry that's making a noise. All right. So, Gary, game balance was a big deal for Gary, and that the other races not being able to be character classes was straight from his D&D game, and it went into AD&D, and of course, you know, that's changed now over the years. But for Gary, it was a game balance thing. Clerics can't use swords. Wizards, there's a sword on the ground there, Gary. I want to pick it up and use it. Okay, you can pick it up, but you don't hit a thing with it. So for Gary, it was a matter of game balance, and you know, I had to respect that. But you don't see it. I mean, you don't see it in Gary's rules. I mean, he's just trying to balance the game so that you're making choices along the way, and those choices affect how you play the game.
And what, out of curiosity, what rules from first edition AD&D by the book did Gary tend not to use? I mean, I've heard that he had like a death rule where he used con, where he could go to whatever negative number. What rules did he tend to ignore?
Well, okay, first of all, Gary never consulted the rules during a game. Never, ever. The only time he ever consulted the rule books was at the end to tell us the experience we got from monsters and the experience we got from acquiring magic items. Otherwise, he had just ignored the rules. Oh my goodness. He was a storyteller, and he wanted to tell a story with every game. So that was fun stuff. And so, yeah, he had some private homegrown rules that really, they all turned into AD&D. So.
Did players ever, because nowadays, you know, everyone brings the DMG to the table and they, you know, point out to the DM that they've got it wrong. Did anyone ever point out to Gary that he had gotten a rule wrong?
You're funny.
Inquiring minds want to know.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe at a Gen Con game, at a Winter Festival game, but you know, I don't know anybody who's bold enough to say, Gary, that's wrong. Because, you know, I don't know, I worked with him for 20 years, and I never had the guts to say that was wrong. Whatever Gary said, that was canon for me.
Yeah, and what's interesting is, because you say that, you know, we've been reading the Dragon magazines, because us, this is, and I was just bringing it up, that, you know, this was still at the time in Dragon where they were ranking players. Like, you were ranked, and you know, you go to these Masters events, and Gary's like 27th, 18th. Don't you all work for him? It would be like, oh, that's a great thing, Gary. Of course, well done, like a Politburo.
1,000
That's
points.
Right, 10,000 points for Gary. He's like 27th, the Masters tournament too. So how did that? What was that like?
Yeah, it was pretty cool, I'll tell you. I got to be the judge a couple times in those tournaments, and I just loved being the judge. But yeah, it was just a neat feature in Gary's company because most of us, especially the designers, but most of us, the designers and editors, all ran our own games. And so Gary wanted to, because poor Gary, he had to referee all the time. He really loved playing just as much as refereeing. So he never got the chance to play a lot. So that's what he set up. He set up these big tournament games where he was one of the players and got to play the game, and he enjoyed it immensely.
Yeah, but he wasn't very good at it.
He wasn't bad, I'll tell you
I'm just kidding. It's just in the listing, he comes in like, we're thinking, Gary Gygax is 19th? How does he become 19th in this? That's all.
Yeah. The rankings don't lie.
I think that was more Brian Bloom's than Gary's.
Didn't you? Now, you killed Gary's character once, I believe, right?
Time in 40 years of playing Metamorphosis Alpha, he opened a door and 10 tons of brown fungus fell on him.
Now, I want to ask you about going through any of Gary's adventures, because my understanding, right, you already talked about how you come to the portal, you're very careful, you do about 8 different things that you've got to be extremely careful, right, in Gary's adventures. Absolutely. Yet, Gary invents ear seekers. My understanding is to dissuade people from listening to doors. So what do you do? I mean, so in other words, you're supposed to be extremely careful, and then you're extremely careful when you get ear seekers.
So the first time you get ear seekers, you're very unhappy. Let me assure you. And from then on, you don't listen to doors.
But you're supposed to be really careful in his adventures, and he's dissuading you from listening to doors. It seems to me I'm in a catch-22 here.
Yeah, but there's lots of ways to be careful besides listening to doors. I mean, one of the rules that I started early on was, every time I went into a new chamber, I said, I look up, I look down, I look all around. And after a while, I started tossing continual light coins into the room to make sure it was well lit before I went in there. So there was lots of ways to be careful in Gary's game. And it kind of bugs me. In tournament games these days, the players aren't careful. They aren't careful because they have no love of the characters that they're playing. And that irritates me. I want them to be careful, good players, and they continue to do bonehead things. I had this horrible reputation as a total party kill referee. And it's only because I tell everybody at the beginning of my adventures, this is going to be a very dangerous adventure. You need to be careful. I tell every single person that in every single adventure. No one's careful. Yeah. One time I killed a party of 8 in 5 minutes. I said, okay, be very careful. Check everything out. And so they got into this domed area, and this purple ball starts bouncing towards them. And the ball is probably like 300 yards away. And the ball is bouncing towards them, and they get terrified, and they all run into a domed warehouse. Well, the domed warehouse has these giant slugs on top of the door, and when something comes in the door, the slug grabs them and eats them. All the 9 players got eaten in 5 minutes.
Oops.
That's really bad, but I told them not to go rushing into places, and they did anyway.
And is that what I want to do a shout out to the postings you've been doing on N-World.
Oh.
Right? Because you've been doing a lot of the information I got was from that, right? You've been doing a lot of write-ups, right, on that site.
Article a month for those guys.
And they're wonderful. I recommend them to everybody.
We'll put a link up there.
They're a lot of work, but I like doing them because I get to talk about the old days, and they're just fun to do.
And I saw that you wrote on there, you said, I consider myself a very old guard designer and GM, and many of my ways are considered obsolete by the players of today. I was just curious what you were referring to.
Well, the main thing is killing characters. Mm-hmm. Pathfinder and Wizards of the Coast, they don't want you to kill one character. Well, I just remember my days at Gary's table, sitting at the edge of my seat with like 3 hit points left. wondering if I'm going to get out of the dungeon alive. And that excitement, that tension is just, it's wonderful to experience. And they don't get that. Oh, your character's not going to die. Don't worry. You go unconscious and somebody grabs you and takes you out of the dungeon. Nope. Don't want to do that. Not interested in that. I want the games to be deadly, and I want people to survive the danger.
How did Gary do death? Did he do death at 0 hit points, or did he switch over to a -10? Or
that's fair. In the beginning, it was 0 hit points, and you were done. But then towards the middle of his gaming, it was if you can suck down a potion in like 5 seconds, or get healed in 5 seconds, you could survive. And then towards the end of his gaming, it was -10 hit points.
Okay. And we've, because James, I want to ask about this spell discussion in the DMG. James and I, where we do every week, every show, we do a random spell and we talk about it. And we need to remember that the DMG, not only the player's handbook, has a discussion of some spells. And it always seems to us, and we'd like to get your information on this. It seems to us that the discussion of spells in the DMG was Gary pulling them back because it seemed like players might have been abusing them. Any information on a spell in the DMG seems to be bad for the player. So was that what Gary was doing? Was it people like you? Because you were a wizard. Oh, this is perfect. You were a wizard. So is all these bringing back these spells kind of back to not be so powerful? Was it because you were abusing the spells at Gary's table?
Okay, I have a wonderful story for you. You're getting lots of wonderful stories.
That's today. Awesome. We appreciate it, Dan. Jim.
We are play testing the Fire Giant adventure. All right, and in the Fire Giant adventure, there's a chamber that has the queen of the Fire Giants and a bunch of guards, and it's meant to be very tough. And so we had gotten that far, and we knew we were in big trouble as those guards started pounding down on us. So I used my magic jar spell, and I put my soul in the queen's body. And she ordered all of her giant guards away. So that mortified Gary. Gary had taken the time and effort to write up a very difficult encounter that I negated with 5 words. So he was really irritated. So the very next day, he said, Jim, that magic jar spell doesn't work like it's written anymore. I said, what do you mean, Gary? He said, Jim, from now on, when you toss that magic jar spell, your spirit goes out and it looks for other glowing spirits. You can't target anybody or anything. And I said, wow, that's kind of sad. How come you're doing that? He says, oh, I just think it's a good idea. And so that's what he would do. If people would find ways to really mess up his spells and do horrible things with them, and he would change the spell. I thought it was kind of funny, but I never used the magic jar spell again after that.
Well, that sounds like confirmation to me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's absolutely confirmation.
James, we got anything on the chat?
Well, yeah, they mentioned that thing about abusing spells. And I talked to Jim yesterday about this. With the Deities and Demigods, we since you got something validated by Tom Bombadil, the Greek goddess Aphrodite. We mentioned this in our Valentine's Day special on charisma. So we were very curious on why
James was very curious.
Well, I'm in now, folks.
All of her female clerics must have a 15 or greater charisma, and all her male clerics must have a constitution of 16 or better. And we can just imagine, you're going to the God's Fair, right, the Agora, and you go and you decide, which deity am I going to worship? You go to the Aphrodite one, and you pray that you have a good constitution. Why do you need all that constitution, Jim?
Yeah, thank you very much for asking that very embarrassing question. She's the goddess of romance and physical love. And so I said to myself, the guy better be able to hold up his end of the deal. And so he needs a bigger constitution than the women do. The women just have to look great, okay? Well, that's easy to do, but the guys need stamina.
See, and that's, if you want a definition of constitution, there it is from Jim Ward. You've got that there. People like
This is why it's definitely not a dump stat. Forget about those extra hit points.
Right. Exactly. What?
But that's why that's why it's so wonderful. You sprinkle this volume with very interesting stuff. Just there's nuggets. I mean, for example, we were just talking about Vaprak, the Destroyer. This is one of my favorite lines. Where is it? Hold on. Oh, it is said that this vicious being, and note we're talking about a 15-foot tall, horrid, mottled brown and green humanoid. It is said that this vicious being is always hungry, and in times of great troubles, he walks the prime material plane, robbing, killing, and eating whatever he finds in his path. I think Vaprak needs to immediately be added to the random encounters.
Right. Well, then that would be taking care of a lot of people.
Yes, it would. A lot of gnomes, James says.
As long as they're gnomes.
Yeah.
So Jim, you developed Metamorphosis Alpha and Gamma Road. What was the purpose of having, obviously one's post-apocalyptic, one is in the future. Obviously that time frame, the 70s and 80s, you guys were influenced with the science fiction. So, why did you end up with 2 games? What was the purpose of that versus, just making the Gamma World features inside Metamorphosis Alphas and doing a distant world or something to that effect?
Okay, that's a great question. So we do Metamorphosis Alpha, and actually it's kind of like D&D in a tin can. So it's a lost starship, and you play in what's left of the starship. And I used Brian Aldiss's starship. I think it's Brian Aldiss wrote a book called Starship, and I used that for my idea for Metamorphosis Alpha. But then we got tons of letters from people that wanted a planetary-based game. And so I said, okay, that's no problem. We can make Gamma World, which was the first apocalyptic role-playing game. And we made it kind of different than Metamorphosis Alpha, but kind of the same. People love the mutations in Metamorphosis Alpha. They love seeing what kind of creatures they can make or they can be in the game. And we had just riotous fun. I remember Brian had one of the things in Metamorphosis Alpha is telekinesis, and it was based on what you could pick up. And so Brian did an elephant with telekinesis. So he was picking up everything all over the place. And so that feature we wanted to put in Gamma World, and we did. And plus it was the idea of the apocalypse. I'd read tons of apocalyptic fiction. I really liked it a lot. And of course I know that I wouldn't last 3 days in an apocalypse, which is making me kind of worried with this virus that's going around.
You just stole my thunder. I'm like, you need to write a module where, this pandemic is the new Gamma World module. It writes itself.
I'll tell you another little story. Okay, so I wanted Gamma World to be different from MA. So I wanted to punish the greedy. So if you did a lot of mutations, physical and mental mutations, you had to take a defect. And one of the defects I had was epilepsy. And I didn't mean anything by it, but I got written from the Epilepsy Foundation that it was a terrible idea to have epilepsy as a game feature in Gamma World. I was shocked and appalled, and someone would be like enraged at me doing that. So we stripped that out of the game. But no, it's a different style of game. There's more technology happening in there. I've got those fun playtest charts where you try to figure out things. I can't tell you the times that Gary tried to figure out urinals and toasters and kitchen sinks, and he didn't know what they were because you described, well, it's a big white thing that occasionally splashes water. Oh, that's interesting. Let's see if I can figure it out. And so he starts rolling on the figure out tables, and and things happen and things don't happen until finally he says, all right, Jim, that's a urinal, isn't it? Yeah, Gary, that's a urinal you just figured out.
Yes, and and we have a question. You know, obviously in the DMG they talk about, and you mentioned it in Castle Greyhawk, going to Metamorphosis Alpha. Did you ever run a D&D game that went into either Gamma World or back, or vice versa?
Excellent question. I did tons of games where you took your really tough AD&D characters and you went through a portal and you went to Gamma World and you dealt with them. And I just actually wrote a note about that on Facebook. The D&D, AD&D players do fine on Gamma World and Metamorphosis Alpha. They don't have any problem at all. But the reverse is not true. The stormtroopers and the tough soldiers of Gamma World and Metamorphosis Alpha always get creamed in a fantasy world. It just isn't good for them.
Exactly. Dan, what you got?
Yeah, Jeff, can you talk about the dice molding incident?
Ooh. I did a big article in N-World about the dice molding. So,
yeah.
Okay, so young Jim Ward is in sales, and he's in charge of inventory. And one of the most important things that young Jim Ward has to do is order the 100,000 red box sets with dice that get sold every single month. So it takes 6 months from the time they're ordered for China to deliver a cargo ship to San Francisco, and for that 100,000 units to truck over to Wisconsin. 6 months. So TSR had the idea that they're going to do their own dice because all those dice are expensive. And let's do our own dice molds and then sell the dice because there's big money in it. I said, hey, that's a great idea. I'm really all for that. So Kevin Bloom gets in charge of that. And this is not a pleasant Kevin Bloom story. And he gets put in charge of that. And they start making dice and dice molds, and they're having an awful time. Basically what happens as they make the molds, the dice come popping out, and they look like pieces of popcorn with numbers on them. They're just not the dice they're supposed to be. So Kevin comes into the office and tells me, Jim, stop ordering dice. And young Jim Ward is very dutiful and wants to do a good job. I say, Kevin, why is that? Because we'll have dice in plenty of time for that 6 month shipment. I said, okay, Kevin, if that's your order. And so week after week, I go in and I secretly talk to the guys who are doing the dice. And the dice molds are just not working. They cannot make that thing work. And all I'm seeing is hands full of popcorn with numbers on them. I'm terrified. I am terrified. So I send a memo to all the vice presidents. We have to order dice so that the 100,000 units can have dice in the box. And so I would like to, not do what Kevin said and order dice. And Kevin comes roaring into the room and he throws the memo in my face. He says, you will not order dice. Do you have any doubt what I'm telling you? I said, no, Kevin, okay. And so he leaves. Well, young Jim Ward, he can't do it. He just can't. He wants to obey authority, but he's incapable of obeying authority. So a month goes by, and we are now past the date where I can get dice in the 100,000 boxes. I can't get dice now since we haven't ordered them properly. So I send out a memo to all the vice presidents again. And it says, if we don't have the dice that are being manufactured by TSR, we will not be having dice in that 100,000 boxes, and we will not be selling those 100,000 boxes. Kevin again comes storming in. He doesn't talk to me now. He talks to my vice president, Will Niebling. I will have the dice ready, never doubt it. And so Will says, okay. And so Kevin leaves, and I say to Will, do we have to obey this? I mean, we really need the dice. And he says, Jim, if you get an order from a vice president, you must do what he says. Yeah, I said, okay. So the 5 months go by. So now we're not going to have dice for 4 months of boxes if we don't have dice. And I go into the dice manufacturers, and guess what I'm seeing?
Popcorn.
I'm seeing popcorn with no on them. I am horrified beyond belief. So I said, well, I'm going to send this memo to Gary, and if I get fired, I get fired. And he says, okay, Jim, it's on you. So I sent the memo to Gary, and Gary comes storming in. Jim, what's the situation on the dice? I said, Gary, we're going to be 5 months out without dice because Kevin wouldn't let me order them. And Gary gets real red in the face. It's never nice to have Gary mad. You don't want to be anywhere around Gary Gygax when he's angry. And so he said, Jim, you order those dice and you keep ordering them until I tell you not to. I said, yes, sir. So I put in the dice order right away, but it doesn't matter because we're going to be 5 months out. And so Gary goes storming into Kevin's office, and I heard this secondhand. Gary says, what's the situation on the dice molds? And Kevin says, well, it's in good hands. We're gonna have lots of dice. And Gary says, let me see them. And so Kevin opens his drawer, and he pulls out popcorn with numbers on them. Gary goes stark raving nuts. He says, we're ordering dice from Hong Kong, and we're going to do it until you can finally make dice. And so that was Kevin Bloom's only written reprimand in this entire time at TSR. And he always hated me from then on. Every time I got a new boss, Kevin would go to the new boss and say, that guy's a troublemaker, you watch out, and we'll get rid of him if he doesn't do his job. So that's my dice story, and I'm sticking to it.
That's awesome. Wow.
Thank you.
And so what happened with those boxes? Those are the ones that got the chits in them, or what was...
We got 3 sets, 300,000 boxes went out with chits. And it wasn't a good deal, but it turned out to be a very good deal for prisons. Prisons can't use dice, but they can use chits. So all the prisons started buying up the boxes with chits and playing the game with, you take a cup, you put the chits in, and you pull out a number. That's how they did that.
Awesome.
So yeah, 300,000 units of chits. It was not a happy time. If I didn't get an ulcer then, I don't think I'm ever going to get an ulcer.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Did you get letters complaining about the chits? I mean, did it say dice on the box, and then you open it up and you're like, what the heck is this?
Yes, of course. We had this index card that we put in with the chits, and the index card says, when TSR starts manufacturing dice, send in this card for a free set of dice. And so we honored that. We got like 100,000 of those back. And we sent them out, but it was just a terrible experience for me because I had to buck authority, and I hate bucking authority. After a while, I got to like bucking authority because upper management was really a pain towards the end of my stay there at TSR.
Yeah, and maybe you could talk. So when you came back, it must have been weird, right? Because Gary is gone, and I think in what, 86?
Yeah, around then.
So what was it like? It must have been strange to be at TSR without Gary.
You know, it was terribly strange, and I kept wanting to go to Gary's company. Gary formed Tri-G, right. Started doing his own role-playing stuff, and I was always a gigantic Gary supporter, but I never got asked to come over there and work for him. It really kind of irritated me. I don't understand why that was, but. Yeah, we started living through firings, and that was awful. And Lorraine did not want to publish role-playing games. She wanted to do anything else. So she tried doing comic books in Hollywood. She tried doing audio CDs in Hollywood with her brother Flint, and none of that really worked. Kevin Broom brought in the Greenfield Needle Women, so they were doing needle kits. And they started doing D&D needle kits. I'd love to have those now. I bet they're worth big bucks. Yeah. But it didn't work either. That didn't work.
And the chips. I bet you those chips on eBay are probably worth more than the dice, probably.
Oh, well, the original Hong Kong dice are going for silly bucks.
Yeah.
If they're in their package. But yeah, the chits go for a good amount of money, but there aren't a lot around because people used them.
Did you stay? How close did you stay with Gary after he left? So did you continue to remain in contact with him all the way up until his passing?
No, we were kind of estranged there for a while.
Okay.
When he was doing Tri-G stuff, because well, some of it was illegal to do. Frank Menser, nice guy, but he printed a module for Tri-G that was printed for TSR. So we had to sue him. That wasn't conducive to friendship.
Yeah.
It tends to spoil the relationship when you sue someone.
Gary did Dangerous Journeys with the GDW, and we had to sue him again because he took the spells, he copied the spells from the player's handbook and just give them different names. So it wasn't a good situation. We won that lawsuit, but you know, I was the prime mover in that lawsuit, you know, giving my expert opinion to the court, and so that wasn't good for a relationship either. But after a while, Gary and I patched up and we started playing games again.
Which version of Palace of the Silver Princess do you prefer?
And that wasn't even my fault. I was in the book department then. But oh, what a travesty that was. And that was because Gary's a good guy. So Gene Wells designed that, and her editor hated it, and for a very good reason, because it was awful. And so Gene went crying to Gary Gygax. Gary, I did my best work, and the editor isn't being nice to me. What can we do? And because Gary was a big softy and hated to see women cry, he had the editor take his hands off. Well, there was a ton of stuff in there that was just wrong. They had Rocky and Bullwinkle on mounted heads on the wall. They had this female on a chandelier so you could see her underwear. The bad stuff just kept going on and on and on. So what happened is this, you know, when TSR got a new product in, everybody got one. And because Brian and Gary realized that people would steal them if they didn't give them away. So we all got our copies of Palace of the Silver Princess, and we all took them home, and we all read them. And we were all horrified beyond belief. It's incredible. And so the next day, we all said, Gary, look, this is awful. And Gary saw it and said, you know, you're right, this is terrible. So they called them all in, but there was like 10 or 12 boxes that were delivered directly to the distributors. And most of them got put in a great big landfill and buried. But the boxes that thing goes for $1,000 now at auctions. And it's just wretched beyond belief.
It's kind of like our modules. If people would pay $1,000 for Drek, I don't understand. Why would anyone do that?
I know. These collectors and their mentality, they got to have everything. I mean, it's really driving the price up on stuff. There's a guy in Canada who has 3 of everything, which I'm very impressed. He's also very rich.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Jim, can you talk a little bit? I'm going to take it way back a little bit about your contributions to the Dungeoneer magazine by
Paul Jaquays.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think you did an adventure, Pharaoh's Tomb, in there. You did monsters in there.
I got the first one in the mail, and I loved it. I just loved it. I loved the format. It was in a little book, and I love the artwork. I love the articles. So I said, hey, Paul, I want to start writing for you. I didn't even charge him. I just wrote articles for it because I really loved the format. I had a lot of adventures in there. I think until he sold it to Judges Guild, I think I had an article every month.
Yeah, and what I think was funny is for Pharaoh's Tomb, Paul, now Janelle, wrote, it's a fairly high level and a bit different than what is usual fare for this section. I hope that no parties of low levels or turkeys go wandering into this one.
Yeah, I've always done high-level adventures. That's what I love.
Yeah.
So that's what I do. Tomb of Horrors came out, and if you guys familiar with Tomb of Horrors?
Yeah.
All right,
yeah, you're supposed to stick your head in the mouth, right?
In the big demon head, yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay.
Tomb of Horrors came out, and I survived the playtest, but it's because I used a flying carpet. So I didn't fall in most of the pits that were there, but I also didn't find the biggest treasure that was at the bottom of one of those pits. But anyway, I survived it. So I've always loved Tomb of Horrors. The design is simple. It's got way cool stuff in it. And I've tried for 40 years to do my version of Tomb of Horrors, to do a horrific adventure that's really scary and deadly. And I have no problem with the deadly part, but it's hard to make a horror adventure. I've studied it a lot, and studied elements of horror from the movies and from novels, and included them in adventures. But I haven't succeeded yet. I've got a product from Goodman Games that's coming out called Doom of the Warden, and it's an adventure on the Starship Warden, and it is my homage to Tomb of Horrors in the science fiction version. And that Kickstarter comes out, I think, in, I want to say June.
All right, excellent. Yeah, we'll definitely post that. And do you spend most time in science fiction now, fantasy? You do both, or is there a genre that you'd like to do?
No, I pretty much like science fiction and fantasy genres. I've got 3 different projects I'm working on right now. I'm working on a thing called Big Boss for the Warden Kickstarter. And basically, it's 17 different encounters with the most powerful creature on each of the levels. And so it's going to be perfect for science fiction fans. They can just use it in the science fiction games, but also it's going to be perfect for those guys who like Metamorphosis Alpha. And I'm writing a short story right now for Dragon Scales. Dragon Scales is a fantasy RPG that I invented that uses a deck of cards. And basically what happens in Dragon Scales is the red cards are good and the black cards are bad. So if you want to hit something, you have to draw a heart or a diamond. If you draw a heart, you do full damage. If you draw a diamond, you do half damage. And if you want to defend against something, you have to draw a spade. And so we have this great big campaign, Fantasy Dragon Scales campaign. And Stephen Lee, he's down in Florida, and he does firesidecreations.com. And they have a 77 Lost World Facebook page and a Dragon Scales Facebook page, and he does my products for those different things to support the 2 different product lines. And so Dragon Scales is going to come out with, I think, the 3rd short story anthology, and he's really good at supporting his products, and there's a lot of fun things coming out from that company. Troll Lords, again, I'm doing the Warden thing, which is, I just love it. And let's see what else I'm doing. I just got finished doing a doppelganger adventure for a guy from Hollywood, which was kind of fun. So I like to do it all. I like to keep very busy. I usually have 2 or 3 projects going at the same time. And what I do is I do one project in the morning, the one with the nearest deadline, and then I switch to a different product in the afternoon.
Awesome. So, are you a big fan of the Deck of Many Things since you're a card?
You know, I had to play test that thing.
Oh, okay.
And I was really lucky in that I got a couple of the good cards. But I remember Ernie getting the void card, and his character was gone. Happy again.
No.
I wasn't happy again. So yeah, that was one of the. And Gary could be kind of nasty sometimes. I mean, he loved doing cursed items for some reason. He filled his dungeons with cursed items. I can't tell you how many Horn of Bubbles I blew, but before I figured out what they were. And yeah, we went through a lot of cursed, nasty things. I was turned into a large ant many times by Gary. Just cursed to walk the land until I was healed.
And is it fair to assume that the shirt you're wearing is in honor of Gary?
I do wear Hawaiian shirts in honor of Gary. That's true. Every GaryCon, which didn't happen this year, but it did happen electronically, but it didn't happen physically. On Saturdays, you wear a Gary shirt, a Hawaiian shirt in Gary's honor.
All right, James, anything else out on the chat there?
No, just they did something about B3 as well. Someone had a question just going back to the Silver Princess, because it's so. Why was the wilderness map removed? Any idea why that was removed from?
No. I had this personality quirk. I don't like remembering bad things.
That's a good thing. It's probably why we've lasted so long.
So I stayed completely away from the B3 fiasco and the poor editor who felt really bad, but it was Gary's fault that it turned out the way it did, just because Gene Wells went crying to her. Yeah. I can understand a crying woman, but boy, oh boy, that product did not do anything for TSR's reputation.
So are you still playing at this point now, or do you have a game, or you just?
Yeah, fine. In fact, I'm going to run a two. There's two authors down in California that I just made a fantasy role-playing game for, and Nick Cole wants me to run Tomb of Horrors because he's heard me talk about it so much lately. So I'm going to run that for him. He has a group of 5 guys, and they all play over there. And I told him I want you to do 2 different 10th level characters with 15s or higher in your stats and tons of magic items. And maybe one of them will walk out alive from Tomb of Horrors. Yeah. That thing is so deadly. It's incredible. And like I say, I'm in awe and wonder of it. It's a small little adventure. There isn't a lot to it, but oh my goodness, the dangers and the deadliness and the demi-lich, they're just nasty stuff.
And my son, who's 17, he plays a lot of 5th edition, but
you have my condolences.
Well, but he plays with me in my game, and it's a 1E game, and he actually ran Tomb of Horrors, and I think he got it when that was the only module he read cover to cover. He ran it for us, and one character escaped naked, sex changed, and with 1 hit point because we were in the altar and the fireball blew up, and I was able to get back. So that was the end result. So, and he's like, boy, that's the best thing. So,
did anybody jump in the mountain?
No, I think that's just too legendary now. I think
Gary was amazed. He would run that module at conventions, and he was amazed at the people who wouldn't test it at all. Oh, it's large enough for us to go in, and everybody would jump in. Time and time again, Gary killed whole groups with that stupid mouse. I just didn't get it, man. We tested that out 10 ways to Sunday, and nobody wanted anything to do. We stuck quarterstaves in there, and we stuck ropes in there, and they all came out stubs. So we knew we did not want to go in that hole.
Yeah, I mean, so unfortunately, it's just so iconic. For decades they have the visage of it. In fact, our dear friend Vic Dorso made us a 3D image of one. See, there's a little
yeah, that's terrific.
A little picture of that. I'll show that to the rest of the folks. And so that's it's just so iconic. But the rest of it in there, even if you've been through it, unless you've studied it, you don't remember, okay, is this the portal that changes you? Or is this the portal that drops in here? Do I click the lever? It's just, there's too much. So it's a lot.
Is this it with the secret door at the bottom? Right. This is part of Gary's genius. Who in the world would put a secret door at the bottom of a pit?
That's right. And if you don't find it, you're basically screwed. That's kind of...
I know. So, I never found it. I survived the whole thing, but I never found the big treasure.
Yeah.
Well, you had a flying carpet, right?
Yeah, I used a flying carpet.
Yeah, if you use the pre-gen characters, there's literally no way unless you're extremely lucky and good, there's no way you're going to survive, because half the things you need to defeat that, your pre-gens don't have it. But, so are you going to do that virtually, that Tomb of Horrors? I mean, obviously now...
Yeah, on Skype. You're going to do it on Skype.
Okay. Well, that's great. Well, Jim, we're so glad that you gave us an opportunity to relive a little bit. We're very excited. If you can, I'll email you. If you can send us the links for your Kickstarter in June, some of your products, we'd be happy to promote that on our show notes here.
Okay.
Because again, you're not only a treasure. But not just a living treasure. I think people don't realize. I think we've seen this OSR, which is great, but like my son, his group, while they use 5th edition, they're very inspired by the hardcore. They're not big fans of superheroes. So I think there's definitely a hunger for that in the newer games. I just think and we do want to have a 5th edition. There needs to be a 9th edition 30 years from now, or else the game is gonna,
Listen to that. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, the game will die if there's not that. So we want that to continue. One last question from Jonathan on the chat. Do you prefer playing or DMing?
Ooh. That's a hard one for me to answer because I don't get much opportunity to play. I mean, I go to conventions and they want me to fill up my time with refereeing. So I don't have a preference really. I'll do either one because they're both lots of fun. But I don't like doing low-level characters anymore.
Well,
I want a backpack full of stuff when I go. I have to have my continual light wands and my healing potions and this or that. So I kind of like the mid and high-level games. My games, when I ran the games, I always started people off at 9th level.
Wow.
I like high-level games. They're fun.
So challenge accept. We do have our convention, assuming we're all here in October. If being that we're fortunate, we may be like Forrest Gump. That's what we keep saying. We're the only shrimp boat left. Before obviously things will happen in November. But yeah, if we bring you, if you are available and it does work out, you come down. We'll run a high-level adventure for you so you can play for once, Jim. That's not a problem.
My problem is I'm in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
So it's really hard for me to go anywhere.
Yeah, and especially now with travel, it's scary. It's scary to do that now.
Yeah.
So.
And Jim,
I'm with our administration. I think we're going to be okay in 3 or 4 months. But the question is, will this be a cyclic thing?
Yeah.
Will this every winter? Will this thing come back and kill 100,000 people?
Right.
We just don't know.
No, until a vaccine happens.
What's the odds right now? I mean, I'm hearing an 80% survival rate when you catch it. I'm hearing that your percentage chance. We only have 8 in my Walworth County in Wisconsin here. Wisconsin wasn't hit very hard at all, but Illinois was clobbered. So it's a terrifying thing.
Right, and it's unfortunately, the older we are, the older we get, some of this stuff we could have just sloughed off. We can't. And and you're doing okay up there in Wisconsin?
Right now, I can't complain. Me and my pretty wife are doing fine.
Awesome. Dan, anything else for the good of the order? We'll let this man enjoy his Saturday.
Probably has a sheet of 30 more questions.
Yeah. Wait, I'm only done with page 1. Wait, the interview's ending?
Yeah.
One last question. What was your all-time favorite adventure? Was it Tomb of Horrors to be as a player? Your all-time favorite module?
I have to say, I just adore Tomb of Horrors.
Got it. Okay.
I think that's my all-time favorite of the AD&D adventures.
I have no further questions.
Well, so Jim, thank you so much for your.
That's
right. The prosecution rests at this point. So, Jim, thank you so much for your time. Godspeed. Best wishes. I'm glad you're doing well. Again, if you ever want to come on and talk about what you're working on, we would love to have you on. It's just send me an email or I'll call you and we'll get you on again because you have a lot of friends and a lot of fans out there who not only are interested in what you did, but what you're doing today. So thank you for your time today.
All
right, my pleasure. Really, it was a great interview. You didn't ask too many embarrassing questions.
No.
Thank you.
No problem. So for Grog Talk, I'm James.
And I'm Dan.
We will see you all next time on Grog Talk. Take care.